classes are here, ready to be subverted with our
Are they?
evil ways of list building and list science.
Perfect.
Little bit
Um,
like they thought that they were showing up for for fair and balanced commentary on how to build a range of lists with their own agendas, but what they're really gonna get is the most whack filthy crap we can come up with all night
right,
long.
right. You had Alex on to tell and Frank to talk about being good opponents and being your friend and how to approach the game from like this kind and special place. But we know that's not what I'm here for.
Right, right. And I, for one, am all about it. It's time for the evil Mephisto to come out. It's time for the axis of evils to take over your brainwaves for the next few hours.
We can do
Oh,
some fun in lists. Come on, guys.
Wait,
We
wait.
have a little fun in lists.
Boy Wonder, what are you doing here?
It's not all whack. We can have some fun.
Some fun? Okay, well, I guess we can have some fun. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to RantCast, the show about all the adjacent subjects to Age of Sigmar, and sometimes about Age of Sigmar itself. I am the magical Mr. Mephisto, if you're not into that whole brevity thing. Otherwise, you can call me just Mephisto. And I am joined tonight by the Boy Wonder, Isaiah, Felvatar at Felvatar on Twitter, and everyone's favorite Lord of Death, Brendan.
Has he reclaimed that title?
no, I haven't beaten Joe Pagano.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Joe Pagano's like a lot of titles right now.
Is he? Yeah, and he's got to go down to
Yeah.
Australia.
Maybe he'll claim more, and then
Yeah.
eventually somebody will beat Joe, and then like they'll gain the title. List.
Oh, yeah,
It's just gonna be like a scroll, and just whoever keeps like scroll the longest, and we'll see who gets the longest titles.
Yeah, that'd be good. I see. It's kind of like Highlander, except with like where like the quickening and you like
I
absorb
don't know
all the
who
power.
Highlander
God damn it!
is.
God damn it, Boy Wonder.
Like, I'm gonna be honest. Like, I'll look Highlander up for you right now.
Like you need to.
Highlander.
We need to like get you just like an IV with all the Gen X action like references directly into your veins.
It brought me up a car.
The Highlander, man. It was a sci-fi series about
The
like
Mitsubishi Highlander, great television show.
yeah.
Okay.
I mean there was
one of them had a skull on his head. Okay,
Yeah.
1986 fantasy cult film. 69% on Rotten Tomatoes, 24% on Metacritic.
I'm disappointed in I'm
Yeah.
disappointed in 76% of the world. It's not a good movie, but it is like one of those. It's like The Predator. Though
Oh, I know who Sean Connery is, though.
Oh,
I recognize some of these people.
So you're supposed to present yourself as an expert when you're brought on as guest commentary.
Hey, I never said I was an expert about, like, famous people.
Fair enough. All right, so
Like, we can talk about my famous people, and then we can, like, see if you're an expert on them.
yeah,
Most
okay.
of them have died recently, though. Like, there's that.
Is there
Some
like
of them have.
are boy bands back in trend? Like what is
No,
They never
No.
leave. They're always in.
Fair
they're
enough.
never in trend.
They
Never.
just adapt. They
No,
evolve.
they're never in trend.
Right on.
Get those away from me.
All right, so tonight our topic is actually list science. There's actually a lot to talk about. I think this is one of those things that like truly like I love meta predicting metas that evolve and change, and in particular theory crafting list science. I've got this meme up here with the gal staring madly at her boyfriend in bed. I bet he's thinking about other women, and he's just thinking about the Azir app. This is funny cause true. I will be sitting in bed with my phone, and like Molly's like, "Who are you talking to?" And I'm like, "I'm just building lists in Azir." And we are always on the cusp of a fight. Like 1 in every 9 times this happens, because it's just like she doesn't believe that I would just sit there building lists in Age of Sigmar. But this is one of my jams. I absolutely love building lists. One of the first things about like good list science, though, is you got to go in like with any science with a hypothesis, an idea you can test, a point to prove. Now, a lot of times I can be, what's the most competitive list I can build with Skaven? Or, I'm going to this tournament, I have an idea, I want to go 3-2, and I want to play with these models. How do I enable those models to go 3-2? So one thing to remember when you're talking good list science, it can be whack. You can be a winning, if you go to a tournament and you want to win, go to win. Build a list to win. That's where that starts, is a good list. And then getting your reps on your list, refining the list, and taking it to the event, obviously, plus all that mental stuff we've talked about in previous episodes. So yeah, list science. Well, I guess I'm going to ask you each, what does list science mean to you? I'll start with Brendan.
And to me, it's the loose definition of how it is that you approach a specific army book, or just generally the game pre the game. So, quite simply, it's what you call theory crafting or theory hammer. It's the front end work that gets done.
Right. And I know right now you're actually you're putting in some of those reps right now with Bone Reapers, for instance. And this isn't unheard of. Every time you've got a new book or a new list to crack, you draft up a list, go into it, and then you grind out some games, adjust some stuff if it worked or if it didn't work, and then boom, you get a refined product. Now I know that you have been known to just out of the blue take Beast Claw Raiders 3-2, but but the thing is the more understanding you have of the game, the more a lot of these pieces will fit into place. And with theory, when you're good at the list science, you get to take more shortcuts sort of in your process down the line, because how you can your ability to visualize stuff on the table gets better. So 40 blocks of skeletons. If you've played with 40 blocks of skeletons with 2-inch reach, you understand how most other models will play like that. Your realistic expectation of getting how many of them into a combat in your average table. If you've never played with that 40 block of skeletons, and you're going from a super elite army to suddenly running 40 blocks of whatever, 25 mils, witch elves, whatever, you might, or 30s, I guess, you might end up with another sort of rung in the steps getting up to that skill floor with that army. So Isaiah, what is list science for you? Is it just
list science for me is me in my study hall hiding my phone, because we have a zero phones policy in my school. At all times, if this is seen, dropped out of my pocket, it's literally confiscated. Granted, some teachers don't care about it. So in study hall, because I have nothing to do unless I go into the art room to do art. List science is me building lists in study hall, because I have 47 minutes to do nothing. Because I don't have classes, because I have only art classes, because that's what I'm going for. So list science is me building lists there. And normally what I will go list science is what Brendan was saying, theory crafting, that kind of thing. But a lot of times with theory crafting, you have that base idea because people have had the book forever, for a while, ever. I mean, a few months or whatever. There's been a few tournaments with them showing a decent standing or something. And you have some points oh, well, this unit's really good. I see it 4 times or 5 times, however, whatever your key, how many times I want to see that unit before I'm I'll think about that unit.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of thing.
Yeah, so you have a results driven sort of basis for a lot of your stuff. You look at the results already, and then you go, okay, now how do I make that work for me? And I think that's an important point when you're talking about list science. Now, obviously, we live in the internet age. People win tournaments with lists. You look up the list, you go, oh, that's a cool list. I could run that list. There's nothing wrong with that, by the way.
Definitely not Brad's list.
Yeah, Brad's how many times Brad's list was at an event recently with his Slanesh? What was
I had a different artifact, thank you.
There was 6 of them though. Was it 6 of his lists?
It's 4.
4? Yeah, man. It was funny. But I mean that's the thing is we play in a particularly developed meta. We have some known commodities in terms of the personalities and the players that show up to our regional events. And some of the list science can just be taking somebody else's list and trying to beat them with it, which actually is kind of relevant to why you're taking Skaven to Paka. If you want to take us through that real quick. So for those of you who may not know the guest here, the boy wonder we call him, Isaiah. You've as you've discerned, he is he's currently in high school, but he is leagues above like my skill level at that point in time. Very very skilled pilot.
We had a fun game at NashCon.
Yeah. I mean, you were catching me getting reps in with my list science at that time because I had the premise. I think Nagash can beat Slanesh, right? Like
I was like, after my turn 1 didn't like go so well with those demonettes and stuff, because demonettes were not too great. Like, I was definitely like agreeing with you. Like, Nagash is well versus Slanesh because skeletons don't give depravity, all that fun stuff.
Yeah,
but
and the dust doesn't give depravity.
When like stuff gets to where it needs to, that's when it starts to turn into Slanesh's favor.
Yeah, and the thing is like the weakness Nagash has is the weakness Nagash has always had, which is like mobility. You can out mobility Nagash. I should say death. Death generally tends to be weak in the mobility department.
Tell me about it.
Wow, man.
Nighthaunt is at least a little fast. Like, Nighthaunt's the one where like there's some speed, there's like the teleportation stuff, there's like the anywhere they can bring stuff up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I argue that Feck are the fast death army.
Yeah. I mean, Ghoul King on Terrorgeist is blazing fast. You've got outflank techniques. You got outflank tech, which is a big part of mobility. I can tell you from playing Beast of Chaos. It's not just a run and charge. It's being able to be like, I can bring these guys within 6 inches of the table edge. In a lot of games, that's scoring an objective. You know,
well, pressuring anywhere on the map is huge because they have to put something there unless they want to concede that part to you, because they don't have like. Some armies just don't have the bodies or like the units to like put stuff there in order to stop like outflank stuff, and then like you just easily pressure that side and you can just crumble an army from one side because they too heavily focused on the other side of the table.
Right.
And they left you an opening.
One part of like list science too is recognizing an army's weaknesses that you're building and either compensating or actually going all in on your strengths. There's two strategies in approaching a list when you're like, I don't have mobility, right? Like you're like, I don't have, so I can take these like units that are at a premium cost to give me some mobility, but like now I don't have as much of the other tools that make me a good army, and that's just something you have to balance. I would posit that mobility is just always necessary in Age of Sigmar. It's just how you win games. But in other weaknesses, like for instance, Beast of Chaos anvils. It's really hard to get proper anvils in the Beast of Chaos list. So you're just like, you know what? Screw it. I'm not going to put points in anvils. I'm just going to put points in speed bumps and trade places with you on the table. And that's how you win a lot of games. And that's just part of what goes into crafting a good list, is recognizing your winning strokes or your winning strategies and your weaknesses, and then playing one or the other, waiting them out. Some armies, like Skaven, can compensate for their own weaknesses within their own build.
There's some armies that do everything well.
Right.
Some armies that do everything just enough to be too strong, and some armies that do just enough fine.
Right.
Like Stormcast does everything but fine.
Yeah.
Daughters King does everything but just enough well, and Skaven does everything too well.
I would posit that doing everything just fine makes you a bad army, though. Like you gotta have some strength to lean on. And that's one of the glaring flaws I saw.
Well, I mean, like there is the 9 like long strike. Yeah, long strikes. There's like the shooting in Stormcast. That's like that's pretty strong.
Shoot cast. Every now and then I see an old school staunch cast where if they're not if they're playing the right matchup, they'll actually kind of just, you're like, do you have Ren to deal with this? No. Okay, guess what? I'm just gonna sit here. Like,
yo, Thundercats.
Petrifex.
Thundercats.
Yeah.
Petrifex is new staunch cast.
Well, that's exactly what it is. It's the new Well, and that's the thing is, like, people like Fire Slayers, staunch cast, these are in that same category. But the thing is like, the mobility you can get in a staunch cast list with like Thundercats and like, what is it, Tempesters? Is it Tempesters that say, no, fuck you, you're not moving this? I think it's Tempesters.
Yeah, Fulminators.
Is it Fulminator? I forget which ones are the good
make
ones.
You not pile in. Fulminators do the most damage. Tempesters are, I think, the axe ones.
Whichever ones have the defensive steroid.
I don't play Stormcast.
It's been a long time.
They're all like 2-up saves versus like almost everything.
Yeah, and you've got the knight
versus like shooting and with staunch and whatever and with
Yeah.
the bubble and like the lantern and their one-up save.
Yeah, you got the knight
lantern
Azuros
and
with
all
the
that.
lantern. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it says
Well,
this is
Azuros
the
is the reroll heroes of one. The Castellan is the lantern.
Yeah, these are the guys that like they're the you shall not pass of armies.
Mm-hmm.
And plus they have teleport tricks. So like Staunchcast is pretty I still think they're pretty cool. Thundercats just got a little bit easier to take if you were already
like 40 points down or something.
Yeah,
like that.
pretty good notch down actually to help afford some of their buff pieces, which is pretty cool, I think. But yeah, Staunchcast, you know, that's an army that goes, okay, we're all in on anvils. Bodies is our weakness. You know, how do you compensate for bodies? Traditionally, take a bunch of shitty ass skinks. You can't do that anymore. So like, do you just go more in on damage to compensate for your lack of bodies and say, no, I'll just fucking kill everything off the point.
Dead.
If the enemy's dead, then I don't need bodies, right? Like these are things you have to decide as you're making those decisions in your list crafting phase. You'll then take it to the table and you'll test and see, does this play out the way I think it does. Now, as you play more and more games, as you get more familiar with the game, you have a better visualization of how things will play out down the line, without needing to take it to table as many times. But still, get your reps in, because that's going to help you smooth out your process of like playing your own army, playing your abilities, setting up, getting quicker at your own deployments. You know, like also like when people walk up to the table and you seem proficient with your list, you get that mental edge. You know. So yeah, roughly I have tonight's RantCast lined out. We're going to talk about design philosophies, the notion of playing what you got versus building a whack list versus building a wacky list. We're going to talk a little bit about meta prediction and how that factors into theory crafting. Self-comping will come up, so we'll talk a little bit about self-comping. And I have a few takes on the notion of comping in general. And I already talked about how it all starts with you need to know what types of games you want, and that will help you build direction with your list when you're building that list. If you know what type of games you want, that's going to help you check some boxes on your list building. And then from there, we'll talk some basic terminology. Hammers, anvils, everyone knows those. I'm going to talk about role-playing power. So when a unit is a role player, usually this means it compensates for something that an army doesn't do well, or it does something so well. Hey, Lily. Ganked my daughter.
Hello.
Sorry. What's up? Oh, Mommy says get you some... Okay.
We are entertainment now.
Sorry.
Yes, we are.
Wow.
That should we do, Isaiah. We should entertain the people. Ask us questions, people.
Oh, that means... Okay. What do they want?
See, that's the future girl
So
wonder
cute.
right there. She's already got a game in with Nagash and beat him.
Nice.
So yeah.
We will carry the show.
Right. Thanks, guys. Thanks, guys, for bringing it. Yeah.
Tell us about Death Riders.
Yeah. So hammer anvils, role players. I'll talk about this concept that maybe is something I'm porting in from other games, but the notion of beatdown versus control, which is you're essentially you always want to be the beatdown. Why is Petrifex Elite so good? Because despite some of its hangups, mobility, for instance, it turns out just their basic strategy of closing the trap on you and grinding you to death is just a good strategy because they're always the beatdown in the situation. And recognizing when you're the beatdown and when you're the control in a game can help you dictate the pace and help you try to position into becoming the beatdown at the table, which is what you're always trying to move towards. That's why Slaanesh is really strong. Slaanesh is always the beatdown. For like it says, if I get, that's why old Fletcher de Courts was stupendously good. Even if you charged them, they were the beatdown, right? So you've got these concepts. Yeah. So just some stuff like that. Force multipliers and steroids, I think, is synergy. This is a concept that I think takes a little bit longer to get used to. Knowing what is good synergy versus like bad synergy. Like you have non-bows or non-combos, right? Like where you say, so that's stuff like that. And then theme and pet building. I think I might have mentioned theme building already, but theme and pet building, which is something that is certainly viable. And then Brendan's got his own take on the 3-threat methodology.
Yeah, my patented strategy.
The patented
I don't
strategy.
even know what the 3-man speciality is.
Well, Boy Wonder, you're about to learn.
Yeah.
But first, I just kind of want to catch up, guys. A lot has happened since the last time I talked to you, and I just kind of want to get your general read on Slaves to Darkness. You know, we've seen what a year of Age of Sigmar releases looks like now, like of an ambitious year of Age of Sigmar releases. This has done a lot of stuff for the list builders.
There's been a lot.
Yeah. You can pick, like, if you were running something, like, outdated before, you didn't have to buy a single new model, and suddenly you're more viable. Looking at you, Ma Tribes. Like you just, like, you find yourself in a more favorable position than you were prior to this year. There's a lot
Don't tell it to the Mod Tribes players, though. They're probably a little salty about that book. Just looking at, like, some people's War Scrolls and Slaves.
Yeah, I mean...
Slaves is a really interesting book, though. Like, there's a lot in there.
I actually am going to share one of the Slaves lists I can't stop laughing about that I built the other day with Haywo and Sam while we were watching Warhammer Weekly. We built some Slaves to Darkness lists, and this is the one I just couldn't stop laughing about. So I'm going to share that one. This is the notion of this is more of a theme list than a real list, but we'll show you. But yeah, Slaves to Darkness, that book, I don't think I've been as enamored with a book from a pure theorycraft stance since Beasts of Chaos. I know Beasts of Chaos isn't a strong book on its face, but the thing Beasts of Chaos does really well is it opens up tons of build options. It's got so
there's
many...
a lot of stuff you can do in there.
Yes, and there's a lot of stuff you can take from there and then go and do in someone else's army.
Yeah, like, you can take those battalions and you can, like, do, like, Slaanesh Bastigors, or, like, Khorne Bastigors I played against, like, in a doubles event with, like, a bunch of, like, 10-man units, and then when you pop, like, that buff, like, once per game, I think it is, or something like that, like, they actually did some really good work.
Yeah.
Like, there's some good stuff in that book.
Yes.
Like, it's just... Armies, if they're not, like, winning tournaments, top 3, top 5, whatever, like, the top thing you want to declare it as, some people... A decent amount of people, I would say, will just, like, shove them away, put them on the shelf. I will do this as well. Like, I'm definitely someone who has done this before. Like, oh, well, like, this army that I want to play, they're not doing too hot right now. I'm just gonna put them away for now. Like, but, like, if you really, like, try to look into that book, there's definitely stuff in a lot of books out there that you can, like, make different synergies work, make different units work in ways that, sure, you're not gonna go, like, stomp a tournament. You're not gonna go reliably take the 5-1, reliably take a 4-1. Reliable 4-1s are still hard lists to make. 3-2 is a reliable list. Yes. Like, I was talking to, like, Sean Clark once, is, like, he always, like, him and I were talking, and we're talking about lists once, and he was like, 3-2 is the reliable that I look for, because 4-1 is play based, 5-0 is, like, matchup based.
Play and luck.
That's not a direct quote, by the way. That's, like, my, like, remembering from, like, you know, a decent amount of time ago. Right. But, like, I agree with that statement, because, like, 4-1, which, like, I know Brendan and I have been there a lot of times. Like, that's a lot of times been, like, that one bad matchup, that one bad mistake we made in that game, or, like, that one, like, you know what? Let's see, like, how, well, like, draw. Okay, well, me, I'll randomly do something and be like, you know what, let's see how this works. Like, on Haish, if I'm able to teleport a unit, I'm gonna teleport that unit. Like, I'm gonna, like, I'll roll that 6, that keeper's going across that table. Yeah. Like, I don't care how unfavorable this is, that keeper's going over there.
Yeah.
We're gonna have something interesting going on.
See, I fall into those same traps. I know. It's like, you know, like, you roll the boxcar charge, and you're like, I should have charged this unit right now.
I shouldn't do
but I just rolled boxcars, so I can't waste the boxcars. Yeah.
I got the dice rolls. My opponent saw him. I saw his face. I want to do it, and, you know, it'll make the game a better
It'll
time.
make it more interesting. Yeah. Yeah, I fall into those same pitfalls, too. But again, this goes all the way back to knowing...
When I said the keeper flies over there was pretty much like that was good.
Yeah. Like that's the thing. That comes back to what type of games do you want to play. Your list is is basically, I think that's the groundwork of, that's the foundation for everything you're going to do in Age of Sigmar from a play standpoint. Like, obviously, hobby has its own sort of drives, and narrative has its own sort of drives that you can build your narrative with your army. But when it gets right, like, to how you interact on the table, that foundation is your list. And I love writing lists, and Slaves to Darkness is just a great list book. It's just a
Oh yeah. I've
Skaven
written
also.
quite a few.
Skaven is
You can
very
do so many
similar.
like random things with Skaven. Like,
Mhm.
how many weapons teams do I want? Do I want to play like Molder and just be like funneling random giant rats or like hell pits or like rat ogres or whatever to come back? Or like, my favorite clan in Skaven is Eshin personally because I just like ninjas and like that stealthy stuff from stuff. Because I've always played like rogues or whatever in D&D and whatnot.
Mhm.
So like I always liked Eshin, and I was like I made like a bunch of lists to see if Eshin would work when trying to make Skaven. Sadly, no. Like, I don't think Eshin works by itself. You can definitely put gutter runners in lists. You can put like 20-man picks and night runners in lists.
Yeah.
You can make Eshin points work in lists, but I think a full Eshin list is something that if you love Eshin and like you like that thing, go for it.
Mhm.
You go full heartedly. Enjoy your time. Like when you go to a tournament, because I'm assuming like we're talking about tournaments and stuff for this. Like if you're
yeah. I mean,
Okay.
you can phrase it how you term it how you want. Your outlook.
Gotcha.
That's fine, man. I'll point out some exceptions along the way,
Mhm.
like with LGS list building and how that differs
Yeah.
a little bit. But yeah, go on.
Okay. Well, so like for tournaments, which is what I'm gonna say is like tournaments. First thing you want to know is you want to make your list based. The first thing you want to see is how are you going to go that weekend? Are you going for the 5-0? Are you like dead set? Like I want to win this event. I want to go for that. Do you want to just go for like a best in faction? Because then if you're going for best in faction, you can start taking like 1-2 units that you enjoy are fun. And you can do some fun tricks with.
Yeah.
The 5-0 is like the whack list that you gotta like go for. The third option is, do I want to just have fun? Am I just going there to go there? You know, like I don't know. I hear beer and pretzels a lot. I don't whatever that means or whatever. Like maybe I'm assuming that just means like a fun time with friends.
Yeah, beer and pretzels. I think sometimes it can have a negative connotation depending on like who's saying it. But honestly, I think beer and pretzel players are kind of some of my favorite people to interact with, favorite people to play with. Like, Kyle, I think, even though he doesn't drink beer and eat pretzels at the tables, I think he's
well, obviously, they're not drinking beer and eating pretzels at the table.
They're not obviously
like,
doing that.
Exactly.
But no, yeah, like he was in chat here. He's in that category of like he's just there to like maximize his fun. But he does have another gear. He can shift gears to go for the
like Kyle Knapp.
Yeah.
Like that's who we have. Yeah. Kyle Knapp, like I've played games versus him, like we're just having fun, we're having a great time. And then like there's like certain games where like he will definitely like go for it. And like he has both gears. And it's great to be able to just like for people to be able to discern those gears. And like because like for me personally, based on the opponent, because I can tell a lot of time by like what list you give me and where we are in the standings on how hard I'm going to actually try at this game. I don't mean that like I don't try like fully at any game because I don't try fully at any game I play because it's a game. I'll give like 70-80% most at games because like if you try more than that personally, I don't have fun with it, and I want to have fun with my game.
Well, the try hard mentality can actually work against you sometimes, right?
Yes, that is true.
If you don't
try too much, then you might like make a mistake and that kind of thing.
Or if you fall short and you're trying super hard and you fall short, you can start negatively impacting your own experience. You don't think you had quite as much fun.
Well, like for example, like let's say I'm going 1-1 right now on day 1, and game 3 is somebody who's 1-1 as well. But like it's a list that I see, and like a lot of this seems to be more of like fun lists and stuff. The game I'll still take seriously to try and like get maybe some like the win out of it. Like I'm not gonna like not take a game seriously just to like throw a game or something.
Yeah, I mean that can be
like,
disrespectful
I will definitely play a little more fun.
Well, it comes down to you already nailed it. It's that should I teleport this keeper when I get that sick right now or not? No, I shouldn't, strategically speaking.
Yeah.
But it would be fun. And that's the difference. Is like you don't go with all the conservative strategies all the time to maximize your win potential. You do some reckless play to like help make things more fun and more interesting, more dynamic on the table. I get what you're saying. I do think that there's a hazard in like quote unquote phoning it in against an opponent where like it's obvious you're not taking it serious. You don't want to ever like
phone in an opponent because then like your opponent's gonna have a bad game and you don't want to give your opponent a bad game. I know sometimes that happens. Some people get like angry. Like I've had that opponent who's just like had bad games the whole day, and like you're just like that unlucky person who has to play them, and they're upset, and like that game's not gonna go well no matter what. Or they're just like fully going for it, try hard. Like they're just not there. Like they don't care how anything besides the win is. And it's like for me personally, my main thing is I want to have a fun weekend because overall it's just a time to just like go throw dice, have fun in a game, and see how things go. Because it's a dice game. You're not gonna really be able to like fully control it. Like you can control it a lot, but you can't just count on everything. And like it's a lot of times, like if you're not having fun out of the game, for me personally, I want to have fun over the weekend, and I want to have like a good games, but I still want to like go for like the 5-0. But I'm gonna try. And
so you're a conflicted man, Brendan. Brendan, you've got a different take on this, like
in terms of what specifically? What I show up to a tournament? For?
Yeah. What do you play for when you go to a tournament?
I make the decision on the front end. It's not something that like as the weekend's going. What it is I'm expecting out of it. I go in saying, like with the Midwest Meltdown this year, where I gave Bryce the opportunity to pick out my list, and he gave it to me, and I looked at it, and I went, 3-2, let's have some fun games, and just enjoy what it is, and obviously be the best BCR player at the event. Because it's just one of my favorite things is just to flex on people with an absurdly bad list.
I think there's a joy in like the playful banter aspect of this game. Like that's I love the like throwing shade and building your own little narratives.
Sure you know when to throw shade and when to not, because some people don't fully know that you're just trying to be playful banter with it, and you can I'm good at like telling, just because like in like with high school like we're making fun of each other, like whatever, like that's how we essentially talk to each other, so I can tell if somebody's taking it the wrong way.
There's
malicious. Like, some people can't tell.
Yeah.
And that's where it can go wrong.
Part of that comes with rapport. If you go to enough tournaments, you meet enough people, you make an entire show that's based on a persona and jokes and like stuff like that. Like it's about building a rapport. That's the community aspect, and I think part of that involves like playful banter. But like if you're a total stranger at the table, I'm not gonna start making fun of you. Like that's not how I'll do it.
Yeah, you don't want to make fun of somebody you
have
no idea who they are. Like if it's like one of the people I play at like the club every now, like all like Brendan or like Dave or like Zach, and I'm like I'll make fun of them. Like there might be like some people like a few tables down that like give you like weird looks and like what are those two doing? Like they seem to not like each other. But like when you're with people that like and you like, people definitely seem to like come out more as themselves.
Yeah.
And people are more reserved around like strangers, which is good because you don't want to like accidentally like offend somebody like create like a scene or whatever at tournaments.
Not to call it professionalism, but I think there's a degree of professionalism or etiquette in going to tournaments. Yeah, you have this like baseline level of interaction that you have to like until I meet you. And I can meet you through over the course of the game, and then I get to know what type of person you are. That was me and Kyle's game is like just the poster boy for that. Was my first game like out of my LGS was against.
I have
Kyle.
a game like that too.
Or I'm just like
Joe Picano. Like the starting of it, I had no idea who Joe was besides like on his podcast.
Joe Picano.
Joe Picano
on the way into NashCon, when he was like drunk talking about Honest War Gamer on his podcast. And then I was playing his game, and like the start of it was like, okay, well, this is a little interesting. And then we started like actually like talk and like get to know each other and stuff. And like then it started like click, and like he's a real cool dude. Like Joe's great to play. It's a super fun game. And Joe, I'll play against like any other time, like anytime. Like just great game.
Yeah.
There's like a lot of people like you gotta like take the time. Like it's not like a long time. Like, you gotta take the time to get to know during the game.
And that
so,
comes
so you can keep that like banter or however you want to like describe how you're talking to people.
The rapport. Yeah. I mean, you have that goes into like establishing your goals though. Like establishing your goals with your list, establishing your goals with tournament play, establishing your goals with a game with somebody you're playing at the table. We play a heavily social game. And like I have like Tobin Prime every game we play, we're chess masters, like just like like stroking our goatees and like good form, Peter. Like that's every game I've ever played with him, and I'm like, and I know that's the type of game I'm gonna get. And like now we've got some banter and inside jokes, like where we always talk about the Fibonacci sequence now for why something works the way it does, and just like so we've built that rapport, and like so my games versus him versus say like Kyle were are really raucous, like over the top games, but that comes with like knowing each opponent and like and getting to know them and consciously trying to get to know them, and I think you should if you want to really enhance your game. Yeah. I'm looking forward to one day having my first game against Brendan, and I'm sure it's just going to be a slobber knocker. But
see, that's real interesting. I've been told is when I end up playing somebody who is considered my friend, I have a tendency to tell them how to win the game. I'll sell the ship, when the opportunity presents itself. But against people who don't know me,
Brennan, you tell me we're not friends? Because in our games, you just like, okay, well, you're making a few mistakes now, and then that's your whole comment. Well, and then, afterwards, you'll be like, well, this is what you could have done to what?
Yeah.
Here's the difference, Isaiah, though, is you're a better player than I was at your age.
Yes.
And I can't let you just jump me all of a sudden. Yeah. You have to go to college. You have to forget how to play for a while. You have to get a job that gives you an expendable income where you have nothing to do.
And then, there's a checklist I gotta get through, and then I can get this. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you have to have you have to have your soul crushed just a little bit.
Wax off, Mr. Miyagi thing here. Like you gotta elevate.
Yeah.
Because at some point I'm gonna look around and go, it's too late for me, and I'd be consumed by the monster.
No, he does. That's the thing is like I won't coach you on how to beat me at the table per se, but like I will run back the game with you if you are open to that, because some people don't want to hear like critique of their play.
Decent amount of opponents actually do ask like, what
do
you
I
think I could have done?
Yeah,
better?
What could I have done better? Yeah.
Like, what do you think was like my main mistakes? Like, what could I have done better to like turn this in my favor, or to maybe make it a closer game, or like however they want to phrase it. Like a good amount of people do that because they want to improve. They want to do it better.
Yeah, and
for whatever reason they personally want to do that.
The game is better the more educated the field is.
Mm-hmm.
Like in terms of Age of Sigmar, you're only as strong as your competition, right? Like you can only be as good as your competition, which is why like if you've got a really great home field, you have a really great local LGS, you're gonna be a stronger player in general. And that the same is true for tournaments and tournament play. The more educated the fan and the player base gets, the more reps they get as a whole, the better the game becomes. They're making more, like for instance, people's criticisms of the game of Age of Sigmar is far more intelligent now than it was like 2 or 3 years ago, because they're better.
Oh no, circle bases.
Oh no, circle base. Yeah, we don't have to argue about those anymore. Like, yeah, the more educated and the more secure the fan base becomes, the better it is. That's why stuff like this I think is so important. That's why I think AOS Reminders is such a great tool, because you're bringing that parity level up a little bit, and the truly great players are going to remain truly great. Right? They've got all the mental shortcuts. They've got all the tricks, all their tech, all built up over time. Just because people got better doesn't mean they're going to get so much better than like the heights of competition. If anything, you're going to raise that rising water level is going to raise all ships. So I think part of like Brendan and this I've only heard that he's really good at this from Dan on the Cubic Shenanigans podcast, is that like you do that coaching your friends and stuff like that, because you want good games too,
Yeah, I gotta get better. Like the more better people that I play, the better I'm gonna be.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of the whole premise of the vault to me, is you don't have to necessarily play what you have. If you want to spend the time to run something that is good and to play good and to be at those top tables, well, you got to put the time in with this really absurd thing. No problem. Happy to play it because I need to play against that absurd thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, cool. I'll come down. I'll play your Slanesh against your OBR sometime. I think that's.
I'm fine. OBR versus OBR, Slanesh versus OBR. I'll run that stuff against you. I got no problem with it.
So yeah, I mean, so Slaves of Darkness. Wow, that was a big rabbit hole off of just talking about Slaves of Darkness. But yeah, like I think the real bookend here is that like good competition is good for the game. Like just period. And you can build rapport and gauge what types of games you want early. I think you should go into a tournament weekend knowing ahead of time what your expectations are, because you don't want to set yourself up for failure, right? You want to set yourself up for success. And success could be, I want 5 great games, right? Well, then, how do you achieve 5 great games? So maybe you bring a certain list where you know this list...
Games are 50-50. Both of you have to be in participant for that great game.
Right.
You can't just count on your opponent for that great game is something I have noticed, I should say.
Right on. Hey, Brendan, has Cubic Shenanigans done the you did the FAQ rundown? Yeah, I was just listening to your FAQ rundown episode. But for people who maybe listen to Cubic Shenanigans, listen to this, or we want to get them listening to both, what were your general impressions for the FAQ? You don't have to do your whole show run back, but what were your FAQ impressions?
I love it. It's great. I think it's the first time where, as it rolls out, you can point to maybe just a couple of things that maybe just didn't get touched enough in either direction. But overwhelmingly, I don't think we sat there and said, "Oh, how did we miss this? You know, what are we doing with that?" And I know some folks had complaints with regards to Maw Tribes not getting adjusted so near, and saying, "Oh well, we're close enough. We know what this looks like." The thing that I would venture to say with that is, one, give it time. I don't even think the best Maw Tribes list has been played yet.
And it's still a new book. I mean, it's a few months old, but it's still like a new book. Because like Deepkin took like forever. Like that's just an example that came to my head. Like that was one of like the longest books to take. Like I think it was James Tinsdale, right? That's who was James Tinsdale is the Heat winner, who like finally like finalized like this is the standard for Deepkin.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, Maw Tribes will take a while because it's not the we have this, we have that, we have that. No, we have.
How dare it not be obvious?
Well, that's the thing is like the obvious
we have melee, we have brute force, we have some shooting. Like there's
the obvious way.
Like, there's some tricks in there.
I think there's a trap in the obvious way of Maw Tribes right now. Like, you go gluttons are so efficient, and you're like, I just want to run as many of them as possible, and like it's just not the way to run that army right now, and that's what people are.
You take auto losses to OBR. You take auto losses to Slanesh. Don't waste your time. It just it's so frustrating.
Right, and you do have a little bit of the old beard power with Maw Tribes because it's people. We saw it with Skaven early too. It's just that Skaven went up by a noticeable amount, and the way to play it became different.
Was a little much compared to Maw Tribes.
But Maw Tribes went up. Maw Tribes went up in a very intelligent, straightforward way. But people just basically said, "Oh, dude, I already have Maw Tribes. Bringing these guys off the shelves, and I'll play them as is." And it's like, no. If you want to really, whereas like OBR, people were forced to like instead of just play what they had, quote unquote, they had to go through and go, okay, I'm either. If you're like Brendan, you're like, I'm buying 4 of everything, and I'll figure out the best list. Or if you're more like if you wanted like more of the practice sort of scalpel approach, you went, okay, I'm gonna buy the most efficient thing in the book, which is more tech guard. I'm gonna run as many as possible, and I'm gonna get this thing table ready.
Such a dumb unit.
And it's efficient. It's a very efficient unit.
Line being that good, like why?
Which elves? Oh man!
Okay,
here's a real quick.
Is the one thing I don't like about the FAQ. They needed to touch Daughters of Cain. They don't do anything to daughters.
What are you talking about?
Daughters of Cain is playing in a
went down and the statue went down. Get out of here.
Daughters of Cain is playing in a like a trail game where we're all playing in a bubble game. They're playing a different game right now. With their different buffs.
See, I think that they're an acceptable what it looks like to be the top of what great should be, you know? Because they still are playing the game fair. I mean, when it gets right
Yeah,
down to it,
they
they're
play it
run their
fair.
models
It's just-
straight across the table, and they're just better than
I
you.
feel like they
so you
should
can't
be able,
fight
they should have a
them
bubble for all
straight
their
up.
buffs. They
Maybe.
shouldn't just be like, I have one guy within this many inches instead of like the bubble
Right,
like every other book is starting to become.
You
I
want
see.
the wholly within language, and I
Yeah,
don't
the
think
wholly
I don't
within.
think that's objectionable. I think that's a fair criticism. You
Right.
just got to adjust the distance and state the wholly
Mhm.
within.
Yeah.
Do I think that's necessarily very high on the playtesting teams, like things that they need to correct?
Obviously
No.
not.
Like if it's something somebody's working on and we see it in 6 months, great. But
Like
right
point
now it's not
wise and
something
stuff,
so
I
busted.
think Daughters is a fine army. It's just I feel like if that would be the one thing that would help them tune into not that just like overcoming, because it's just like here's your centerpiece, random little 7-inch one model, and then control these 2 parts of the board.
I love the visuals of them passing the sippy cum down the conga line. Like I love the visual. Like the thing is like the field is getting more and more diverse. I'm very hesitant to nerf something that's great.
Yeah.
I would rather see things be brought up.
Yeah, you want to buff low armies instead of nerfing high armies.
Yeah. That's why I want the calculated. I want the careful touch with anything that's too good, because we did live in an accelerated meta land for this last year. There are problem solvers sitting in books right now that no one's playing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like it's like, so I'm very hesitant to see
like speaking of Skaven, like we keep bringing up, like rattling guns, which not a lot of people do tend to run, solve your witch elf problem. Three rattling gun unit with the +1 damage, rerolling all hit rolls, will solve a unit of witch elves for the point of 10 witch elves.
Yeah.
You pump them all up. That's 4d6 times 3. Well, they're all separate 4d6s, and then they're 2 damage each. They're rerolling hit rolls.
We've got a biddy war going on in chat again. Between Doom and Soren. Oh man, sorry about that. There he goes. He takes the top spot. Thanks for the biddies, Doom.
Are good.
What Ranga says here in chat, agree, DOK, Feck, and probably post-nerf Slanesh are right where the max acceptable should be. And I think that's true, especially as you get a more and more robust meta. And you get to see that rock, paper, scissors, even though it's not really like rock, paper, scissors, but like the rock, paper, scissors of like this army beats that army beats that army. Or you throw battle plans in too. Battle plans are a pretty good equalizer for stuff as well. And an unnecessary over-equalizer with total commitment.
Yeah, some armies do some armies do just like, oh, this is my battle plan, welcome to my 4-in-1 weekend.
Yeah. Oh yeah, like Place of Arcane Power with Nagash. You can't beat me on that match. And so like if it's in a pack, all I did was practice.
Didn't Ty beat you on Places of Arcane Power NashCon?
Ty and I were both heavily hungover, so I feel that there is an asterisk.
This
on
might
that.
be an excuse though.
But no, I was his golden trampoline. I was his golden
Iron Jaws.
I was his golden trampoline to success
Second
that weekend.
place?
Yeah, and I don't mind.
I did really good with those Iron Jaws.
I don't mind enabling a friend. Like I got his brain working because we were both pretty hungover. We were both playing in slow motion, and in the end, I just didn't have enough time to beat him. Is what it came down to. He teleported.
Officially, Nagash wins Places of Arcane Power.
But he does. I mean,
you could score early.
He scored early enough to thwart me in the long run, and I would have tabled him. But he still had the points. You know.
Yeah.
And that's what you got to do with a problem matchup. You go, this army, if it's the beatdown, will beat the shit out of me. So I'm not going to play their game. I'm not going to let them beat me. I'm going to play the table. And that's just something. That's how Beast of Chaos beats Slanesh, for crying out loud. And I'm going to keep talking about this until...
They're also not giving depravity. And I played Slanesh with post-nerf versus my dad's Skaven. Mm-hmm. Granted, I played Celeste Coast because you kind of have to if you want to go for it right now. Mm-hmm. And the summoning with Celeste Coast, with post-nerf, really did feel hampered. It wasn't enough that I was like, okay, I'm not going to play Slanesh. It's still strong. I still summoned a good amount. But, if I didn't play Celeste Coast, I don't think that I summoned that much. I summoned a decent amount. But,
Gotrek peels Nagash off, but Gotrek shouldn't peel off Nagash plus a proper screen, and that's the thing is like now you swarm him with with 40 spooky ghosts, and like Gotrek can like smash Nagash, but like now he's -2 to hit, and you're hiding behind. Good luck, I'm behind 40 ghosts. You know.
Yes, Nagash, the ultimate sissy of Warhammer, the skeleton hider.
Get out.
Banned.
Yeah.
Banned.
Yeah. Nah, I'm standing by that. Like Nagash, honestly, model ultimate sissy of Warhammer.
A battlefield
880
tactician
points does nothing in like it's like very little in combat. Can probably get killed by like Namarti thralls in combat.
No, he smashed the crap out of thralls.
No. Like his magic, pretty good. But like you get within like 9 inches of Nagash, what is he gonna do to you?
So incidentally, guess what I'm bringing to P.A.C.A.
Yeah.
No, Nagash is the ultimate battlefield tactician. His model literally hovers above the entire field, surveying it and imposing his will. A true general doesn't besmirch his hands with the
true
filth.
General fights in the front line
He doesn't
with his
touch.
men.
He doesn't touch the unwashed masses with his own hands. They are not
It sounds
worthy.
Like just
They're not
somebody
worthy
who
of his
thinks
might.
He's better than other people.
He is better than other people.
Okay, I'm sorry. Wow,
Yeah.
okay, 2 Nagashians over here.
2 Nagashi, like the Nagashians, like
Mr.
the.
Death shirt over here. That's the magic death symbol?
Yeah, I'm
No,
rocking
magic-
my MTG symbol. Yeah, my black mana symbol.
I played a mana light deck that would just heal off of every damage into bonus myself.
Yeah. Let's avoid MTG for now.
Yeah.
So yeah, FAQ impressions, and I brought up FAQs because I think that the game is changing
Welcome
in a very.
to the Bone Zone.
Welcome to the Bone Zone. I cordially invite you to the Bone Zone.
That's somebody
That's
in
Frank,
chat.
yeah.
Yeah, I'll be playing Petragash.
Petragash. So an ultimate sissy because you need the bonus armor so that you don't die in close combat. Yeah.
Is
And
it?
then you're probably gonna put protection
It's
in
how I
the
played him originally.
Yeah,
No,
it's how he played.
No different than OG Nagash.
Yeah, that's because
But-
Mystic Shield used to
But
give him the
you're gonna
+1.
put protection of Nagash on him, so that when he gets damaged by 1, he's gonna be really afraid and go run away into his little corner.
He is
and
going
cry
to
about it.
tactically
Well,
withdraw or
guard
advance.
solve his problems.
What you're gonna do is you're gonna
He's
kill
go
me.
cry in a corner.
No, you're gonna teleport me into your back lines when that happens. Like, are you kidding me?
Mhm.
You're gonna give me free movement so that I can impose my will on the table further. I love Nagash. I can't wait to run Petragash. But yeah, that's what YOLO Solo Nagash used to be. Mystic Shield used to give the +1. You're just getting back the best form of Nagash, which was pre 2.0. Like, well, best, quote unquote. Best. Right. So they have gifted you back. His original power is all that happened. And they upped his points closing in on that 900 what he used to be as well. So like we calls it even. I obviously love Nagash, and I'll share with you my Petragash list tonight. Actually, I'll unveil it for the world to see. This may not be the one I run at P.A.C.A.
It's a good list. Like Petragash has some teeth in it, but
It's-
Nagash is still like a sissy hero. Like Archaon is about those same points. And
Can Archaon get hand dusted? Can Archaon get hand dusted?
Archaon can deny
Sure can.
hand dusted.
Okay, then he's a pussy.
Archaon can deny hand dust.
No,
Nagash can get hand dusted by a Lord of Change or a Changeling.
Yeah, but you're not going to outcast Nagash to hand dust him.
That's
Sorry,
false.
please.
Lord of Change can outcast Nagash.
I've
easy.
already run you out of spells, buddy.
Not naturally.
Yeah.
Not naturally, because Nagash is a little sissy that needs his +3.
Didn't you run Nagash once, Isaiah?
Yeah, I ran Nagash once. I ran a lot of things once, though. I'll play kind of whatever. I don't really care.
So would you say that you're whack?
I will agree to the fact that I will be whack in order to get something, because I own every medal besides the Sportsmanship Award. And that's why I ran Nagash, is to get to my death medal.
Even I have a sportsmanship award.
That tournament might not count.
He's He's got a hammer. I've got a sword.
Yeah, can't take him away from
Life's
us.
weird.
Can't take him away from us. All right. So yeah, FAQ impressions. I brought this up because
I will get a sportsmanship.
okay. All right, man. So now you get to set that goal. So now, how are you going to build a list that facilitates you getting a sports award? Right.
Boom.
I wrote you that list already.
Yeah. We'll talk
My
about it in a
fun
little bit.
list.
But so the FAQs, I think it shows a really intelligent direction for the game. It's a very robust meta right now, which means list science is at its peak awesomeness. And then KO and Zinch confirmed. So
yeah, those two heroes are really good sculpts, honestly. Is that the new Magister?
Yeah, the Magister on disc.
Okay.
I really like that one, by the way. It's so fucking weird. I like the disc being at a dynamic angle, like it's actually like buzzsawing toward you.
Like it's going down.
Yeah,
like he's about to attack into them.
Yeah, like he's like descending, like target acquired, and he's like swooping in.
Both of the sides are fully flying too, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, I know. I saw someone say on Twitter, like, I want the model just for the swoosh alone. I could put so many models.
That or whatever, yeah.
Like I put so many models on this thing. I'm like, yep. Like the swoosh alone. It's weird. It's not quite full bird. It's just weird with the multi eyes. I actually really like the sculpt. And I didn't initially like the Caradron Overlord sculpt, but then someone's like, oh, dude, it's like Dr. Octopus, except with a beard. And I'm like, okay, you sold me on the model now. Like, as soon as it was pointed out that it was like Doc Ock from Marvel Comics, I'm like, yep, okay, I'm cool with this now.
I just kind of think of like any like comic person that's just like sits there, leans back, and then like randomly just like throws out 20 random guns off their arms, and that's what I thought of.
Yeah, like I it's like the limes meme. I can't hold all these limes, except I can't hold all these guns. And so he just like made arms to hold more guns.
They're lemons, not limes. Thank you.
Sorry.
Gosh.
Oh man, my meme game.
I will find this meme for you so that you can.
No, it's fair. Zinch and at any given time, Zinch or KO were, I think, two of the biggest boogeymen.
I was wrong. They are limes.
Thank you. Get schooled, son.
I did look it up.
You are not a Jedi yet, Boy Wonder.
Yeah, but like the base meme is pretty garbage. The base meme is pretty stupid, and then it's like when you put stuff in it, that's pretty good.
Right. Yeah. So KO and Zinch at any given time were, I think, two of the biggest boogeyman lists in a less
shows versus
less populated
clown car.
Clown car, yeah, in a less populated field. Like, and now, so things have changed since that nightmare hellscape.
And the 90 Volkites. Yeah. Don't forget 90 Volkites.
Yeah, teleporting
and
Volkites.
In Nurgle.
Yeah.
Good times.
And there was like that one Stormcast thing that could go like in between.
Vanguard
go in between units.
As luck would have it, at Adepticon where I finished with best death, I went through 90 Volkites. I lost to Daughters. I beat Plague Touched. I beat Vanguard Wing, and then I beat Dreadwood. Oh my god! I earned that.
That was a field, man. You actually had to like run the gauntlet there. That
Adepticon was hard. That was when I was playing Conan Rock.
And I had the flu. I couldn't breathe Sunday morning.
Oh, brutal.
I think the worst playing was NashCon second day when Mephisto was there when we were up to 2, 3 a.m. in the morning.
Oh my god.
Up till 5. Don't.
Mephisto was up till 5 a.m. It wasn't too bad for me because I'm kind of up to that a decent amount of time.
I was
not the worst for me, but at a tournament I'm not used to that. I'll get some more sleep than I usually do because you gotta.
See,
you want to be at least a little energized in the morning.
I can function
on 9 p.m. You're like a grandfather.
I can function at very low sleep. It's part of my insomnia superpower. But that pushed the envelope of what my body's capable of that night. So I'm ugh, I was wrecked. Yeah. I was wrecked on Sunday Sunday morning when I played Ty. But again, if I enabled him, no problem. I got him thinking tactically, which is what he needed in his last game. No. So the point I'm bringing up with KO and Zinch is there was a very a veritable nightmare hellscape of a meta when these two armies were in their old form. Do you think we see that again? Do you think if we see that again, is it okay because there is more armies?
I think out of those two books, with what they've shown, I could see Zinch coming back as what Slaves is right now, where there's like it's a middle tier book, but there's like a one build, the Nurgle build, like this Nurgle weird build that's like really good.
Good build.
Like where there's like one build that's really good. And that's what I kind of see Zinch as, because Zinch has a lot of tools in it. But KO is the opposite, where it's one or the other. It's either stupidly strong or stupidly subpar because it's gotten just awkward combat. Because engine ringers are good half the time.
Well, and so
here's... Because they can't really take a punch, but they can deal a punch if you do it right. And then like their shooting's good if the rules don't totally like mess that up.
So I think it will be fine, and I can see KO becoming what we call the beatdown.
Granted,
right?
their rules writers have definitely gotten like a lot.
They've
better.
gotten a lot better.
New books are really just well smooth. They're great.
Some of the design like
I forget. I know his first name is like Sam something.
Sam Pearson.
Yeah, he's been writing some really good like narrative. Like the narratives are really good. Like the book's like well written. It's got like good units. It's not like overbearing. It's not like just like this is the direct thing. I want to take that Petrifex. But there's some stuff that is obviously the outlier.
It's okay to have a Hagnar. It's okay to have a best case scenario. Like I see
everything will always become that best case.
Yeah, there's always going to be a best case scenario. Just sometimes the best case scenario is more obvious than others. Like that's like I don't like I will defend Jervis in one respect, and that is like I like rules writers to push the fucking envelope, and that's what he does.
Yeah, you want to see.
I want to see innovation.
I want to see 1 or 2 books a year that are too far, so that they show what like the game can be.
Yeah.
They show what units can do, and they push like what you said. Like they push the envelope a little too much. Sure, the book might be a little overbearing. They can adjust it a little bit later. They'll adjust it eventually, but I want to see it at the get-go be too much. 1 or 2 books a year.
It forces you to innovate.
You have every other book has to learn versus that book. Other books after that and other rewrites of older books will then learn from that book because you have to make some mistakes in order to learn better.
Do you think that we just made a case for like power creep, or is this somehow different from power creep?
Power creep though is every book slowly grains better.
Yeah, and we're not in that situation because like we've had several books that have come out that haven't like they're not just like leapfrogging each other every time.
No. Because like Skaven's been out for almost a year now and nothing's leapfrogged that yet.
It's still the best book.
It's still the best book. Is like as far as like
OBR's close, but like it doesn't have that shooting.
Skaven can crush you. Skaven's got the tools to beat you.
Skaven has the tools.
They've got the tools to beat Petrifex. They've got the tools. It's weird because like I feel like we don't see as much Skaven as we should with how good of a book it is.
Honestly, I think it's because people don't like Skaven as models wise. People say that they'll play whatever they want to win, but people I don't think will because they want to like feel stuff that they enjoy.
Yeah.
Inside, like they want to like at least know, like look at the models and be like they enjoy it, and not a lot of people like rats to begin with.
Brendan, you looked like you were holding on to a thought there.
If I'm in charge of Games Workshop for a day, I've been public about it. I've said it before. I would get rid of Skaven as an army. All the models, they'd be gone. That'd be my one Emperor as a day thing. Gone. Don't want to. Out of the lore, out of the game, out of here.
Man, that's crazy.
Gone.
Man,
why do you hate
that's
Skaven
spicy.
So much?
That's spicy. Yeah, why
They're
do you?
just the worst.
How are they the worst? Because they can beat Nagash in the end times?
Well, aside from the lore where they're just like, oh, Nagash wins, here's Skaven. Like, aside from
the
that,
lazy writing to just use them like a Deus Ex Machina.
Writing
it's
is
so
just
lazy.
Nagash wins because Nagash is oh man, he's the god of death.
He doesn't just win. He carefully plans and constructs that shit over thousands of years.
Plans. He eats a bunch of people.
Yeah, awesomely. And like the
so
way
you're favoring cannibalism?
If you're a death god, absolutely. It's kind of in the title. Ever hear of zombies? Like, it's just part of the thing. No. So you'd squat Skaven, cool. Clown Car should never come back, by the way.
Oh, please, God, yes.
And like, I
was
don't.
Not a fun experience to play against.
You already
need to have fun experiences to play against.
The thing is it either worked. It either worked or it didn't, right? And the notion of alpha shooting,
it tabled or it didn't table somebody.
The notion of alpha shooting, to me, I think that these are two things that you're not allowed to put together, right? And like, let it just be.
Can kind of do that right
let
now,
it be Let it be Stormcast's thing, you know. Like, let them keep that as their thing, because they have such heinous drawbacks around the board, as an army, that it's fine for them to keep that thing. But like alpha shooting, just like a 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop, drop down, shoot everything, pretty much just shouldn't exist. Yes, cities with their bridge can teleport shoot.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what I'm talking about. I mean, there should be a drawback.
Just like where they can move fast enough to like just kill your whole army turn one.
Yeah, pretty much out deploying you and then shooting you. Just shouldn't, like, I feel like gunline should take as a rock paper scissors balance, like, counterbalance. You should.
Yeah, I've always said that KO is a 40k army in an Age of Sigmar.
It's fine. It's
because
fine to push.
They have rhinos, and they have shooter, and their whole army is shooting. Like, it's good that they push that, and that they want to like start tempering with transports and stuff. Because it'd be interesting to start seeing like more armies have transports in Age of Sigmar. Maybe not like everything like how 40k does, because you don't want like both games just to be like the same. Or maybe like each Grand Alliance has one ally unit that they can take as like a transport. Or maybe there's like, what's it called? Mercenaries. There's like one mercenary thing that is a transport unit. Mm-hmm. So you give up the command point, you give up whatever, and you can bring this transport unit as a mercenary.
Yeah.
That could be interesting.
With the transport mechanic, I have no issue with that being special to them.
Well, being able to like everything deploys in the boat, and then like that's how many. Then the boat's the only drop.
Right. That's the silly part to me.
Yes.
If you take it where you have to, as the deployment part, say this unit's going in the boat.
Yes.
One deployment.
Like how
this unit's going in the boat.
Fire Slayers, Deepkin,
Deepkin, for instance, don't do that. Don't get to say if a Soul Scryer takes you along with it. I think it's the Soul Scryer that teleports.
Yeah.
It is.
Like, it doesn't lower your drops
too.
too.
Everything that is right now.
Yeah.
You put the hero. And then you put the unit with it, or like the unit, then the unit.
Yes,
whatever.
and it should be the same for the boats. Like, I don't mind that they can transport stuff with the boats. That's cool, and I don't even mind the take that they're 40k army in AOS. I like explore as long as there's like that's the one army that does that, and we don't keep bringing in other stuff.
They're super like cyberpunk.
You're allowed to push the envelope of the design space in various directions, especially if it's an army's thing to do that, right? Like I'm cool with that. It's just like, again, my premise that like just alpha shooting, if you're an alpha shooting army, it should kind of be just the army only does that, right? Yeah. Like, but then alpha strike already makes people feel bad, right? Because that was
in your face.
It was the number one NPE mechanic of the decade. If we have all these like decade, what's the thing of the decade post?
Sigmar 1 was like alpha striking change host. Just like, here's 30 brimstones, you're never leaving your territory.
Yeah, like people just hate
Clown Car, Dreadwood, or like flying Cunning Rook Arrow Boys, or whatever.
The worst.
I feel like we've kind of gotten over a lot of our hatred.
Special hatred for Clown Car, by the way. Like, somebody will bring up like Clown Car in our local Games Workshop, and like there's a wince on his face. Or like I was talking to one of my friends at the store a while back, like a few years ago, about like what he wants to play, and he's like, I think I want to get into KO, and Brendan just like goes, no, nobody should play Clown Car. Nobody should touch boats.
Right.
Fuck boats.
Well,
that's pretty much the quote right there. It's just fuck boats.
Right. And so like I said, like I'm not averse to the idea of what KO is, how they push the boundaries. It's just I think alpha shooting, because you're combining two things that people hate, and you're just making this mega beast of things people hate. So just don't do that. So like you don't if you're gonna have the most OP shooting in the game, you shouldn't be able to also out deploy me. I should be able to do the stuff that we do to counter shooting, which is deploy intelligently, hide my models.
In 40K, like Tau in 40K is the most shooting army in 40K. Like it's just amazing, but you can't they can't just stupidly out deploy you. Well, drones can do stupid things or whatever.
Right.
But like their shooting is a gunline army that there's weaknesses to that.
Yeah. Yeah,
and it's not just like we move this many inches, we can just grapnel over to that, and then we're just on the other side of the board and like all that.
Well, and like I don't mind that they can put their shooting where it needs to be. Mm-hmm. Like I don't mind that. That's fine. Like it's just like you shouldn't combine the alpha out deploy plus the put everything where it needs to be.
Yeah,
you get one or the other.
There's a few ticks too much.
Yes, and so as long as I think that can still result in a healthy space. And we keep talking about the shooting meta coming back.
It's always been there.
This is largely a lie. Like it's kind of like shooting's been there and it's been not. Yeah. The stuff that mitigated shooting going into AOS 2.0 is still there. Look out, sir. More terrain on the table than ever before. Penalties to hit, after saves, all these things that just make shooting less desirable. The big problem has always been kind of Ren 2 shooting and tons of Mortal Wound spam shooting. Like those are the two things that really push.
Oh, you mean Skaven?
Yeah, I mean exactly Skaven. And
there's a lot of problems with the Skaven book in general.
But again, so I'm not gonna harsh on it. I look forward to seeing what problems KO and Tzeentch bring to the meta. Yeah. With that in mind, I think we can move on.
Yeah.
So I just want to see the Tzeentch endless spells. That's all.
That will be really interesting. I wonder if they only get 3 or if they get more than 3.
I hope they get 9.
One thing though about the shooting meta that I do want to say is more people enjoy melee combat. Shooting has always been a thing, will always be a thing, but I don't think it will ever be a full meta because people will always play melee. Speaking Iron Jaws has always been a thing. It's always been the most popular army because people enjoy that playstyle. People enjoy that just smash, bash, brutal.
You're not wrong.
Shooting comes back because people need to deal with it, not because they want to play shooting. Some people do. No, I'm not saying that people don't want to play shooting. But I'm just saying I feel most people that shooting never leaves because people will play shooting, but I don't think it will ever become a full meta.
Or it's
because
just
people will always take combat because whenever theory crafting and list building, which is what what we're talking about. People will always put those melee units in, I feel, before those shooting units, unless they're building those whack lists.
If I may,
I feel rewards it.
Age of Sigmar, I really think that at its core, it is a combat game.
Yes.
All of the rules facilitate combat, and all of the big steroids are combat steroids.
I was always surprised that there's no, what's it called, consolidation in Age of Sigmar.
I mean, second pylons are kind of like it.
It's not needed, but I was just
with rank and flank gone and the way cohesion works now, you don't need to consolidate anymore.
The 1 inch and stuff.
Yeah, you don't need to the consolidation move was a necessity of the mechanics, not fun rules, right? And that's the thing is if you're
necessity to get 3 inches closer towards that one hero I want to kill next turn.
Right. Well, that's what a second pylon too. This is one of the conversations Brendan and I had. And I was telling Kyle Knapp, Minimum Pants, this is how it works. If you charge with Van Hells, you can take that second pylon even if you wipe the unit. And he just fought me on it. And I had to call in the lawyer. I had to be like, Brendan, please come tell him this is how this works. If you
ever charge, you always
you have the cut. Yes. The exception being the Slanesh thing specifically says
3 inches of people, though.
Yes.
Or within so many inches.
But a pile-in, a condition of the pile-in is
so some things that you can do tricky things, or you can charge 2 units. 1 unit kills something, the other piles in to the target you want to kill, and then kills that.
Yeah, I mean this is how you set up. This is how you set up some pro strats with smashing and bashing and stuff that too, right?
Smashing and bashing. My favorite thing, Maw Crusher charging, because people will randomly leave those small support heroes for some reason out in the middle of nowhere, buy back, and then you put a Maw Crusher there and be like, well, we're going to kill this one, and then that one, and then that one, and look, I'm in your big hero in the random of your back line. The Nagash that's sitting in the back corner judging the battlefield as the best general.
Just get good, son, at deployment.
Yeah, first off, if you're in the back line on a death army picking off all the heroes, where are these skeletons that are supposed to be protecting these heroes?
Sorry, but have you met a teleporting Maw Crusher?
Yeah, I have. Have you met Bubble Wrap?
Yeah.
Oh yes. Okay.
Have you seen his Fibonacci
protection?
Have you seen
Definitely,
his Fibonacci sequence
definitely.
deployments? Just
I don't know what Fibonacci is.
the multiple
what is this
concentric
Fibonacci?
circles where you just got these like amoebas of deployments. like he just draws S shapes and like squigglies with all of his units, like just blocking off
My
the entire
specialty.
board. It's fantastic. All right, so
I personally would like to think that the cohesion rule in AOS 2.0 was written specifically with me in mind because I had a strong tendency to take a unit of 40 with my grave sites and just, have them be in 15 places over the course of the game.
Because then you can just heal in between and stuff.
3 here, 2 there, 1 there. Yoink. Oh, you killed some guys. Well, I control this objective now. And together over here and over here. You're locked in combat. My Graveguard, though, are going to clean up all of these pieces.
Graveguard's still low-key great, by the way. Like
Graveguard are good.
They're even better now.
Yeah.
But are they better than Mortec Guard?
They can fuck them up. Like it's such like the points are so fucking close, and you need to measure a best case scenario for Graveguard, getting their Van Hells, getting their Lord of Nagashazar.
Great weapons or
Always great weapons.
Oh, yeah.
Always great weapons.
Great weapons.
And so you got your exploding sixes. Like
Mm-hmm.
Mortec Guard on average beat them down, but like you've got the punchers, like you've got the power of the punch, right? Like you can run the like knockout shot with some Graveguard.
Yeah.
Like I forgot how good Graveguard were because like they just fell into like unplayably pointed.
There's a lot of good stuff in
and
like
then,
Legion and Nagash, but it's just like Death is that weird army that it's like Death is the power creep army. Is what I'm gonna say. Every book in Death that's come out, because there's Night Haunt, like is here. Then there's Legions. Then there's Flesh Eater Courts.
Except
FAQ
LON
Flesh Eater
came out
Courts.
before Night Haunt.
Yeah, there was
Did it?
Legions,
Okay.
Night Haunt, which meant Legions.
Which meant
Right.
just Night Haunt is Legions.
Right.
Night Haunt is like Legions. But then like every book that's come out for Death has just been a power creep slowly upwards. Because like OBR is better than the other ones. Flesh Eater Courts was better than the other ones.
If Flesh Eater Courts didn't get nerfed, I think it would still be better than
Flesh Eater Courts is still a great army.
It's still a great army.
I'm not saying that Flesh Eater Courts is a bad army.
No.
I'm just saying
I think I just saw them. I just saw them
so
podium like
good.
recently again. I'm like, oh yeah, Flesh Eater Courts is still around. Or like you run
I see Flesh Eater Courts like I don't know about podium, but like top 10 like very commonly.
Yeah.
Like it's still a strong army.
It's a gatekeeper army too. It's one of those armies that like you just need to know how to play against it or you're gonna lose. Like you have to know how to play against.
Yeah, if you don't know how to play against the Terror guys, you're just gonna get.
It's just it'll just go through.
Guy.
It'll run roughshot through your entire army.
That
That one
just
model.
It sure will.
Terror guy. Oh yeah, 6 mortal wounds. 6 mortal wounds. 6
Well,
mortal wounds.
that's the thing is like
decreases.
it should be a D6 fixed. I have fixed. You can roll back all their other changes. Make that a D6 mortals instead of 6. I've changed the entire army.
The mortals should follow the damage table.
I see. So you want their mortals?
So the damage table starts at 6 and then go. So it should be like a Durthude like damage table.
Their damage remains the same throughout.
Yeah.
Is it always D6?
Yeah, the only things that change on the Terrorgeist is the movement, the number of claw attacks, and the number that you add to the D6 roll when assigning bravery.
I thought that the damage went down on that when it went down.
No, it's always 6 mortals.
I knew the mortals I knew always went down, but I thought the D6 damage went down to like D3 or something like that eventually.
Nope. There's this D6 always, them and the zombie dragon.
Yeah. Yeah, they still slap shit.
I mean, like, it's an undead model, I guess, might be their excuse.
Well, like, and here's the thing is, like, you talked about, like, the power creep of death, and while we're on the subject, like, what I think is interesting that's happening right now with the death army as, like, a internal balance of the Grand Alliance, you've got fast death, which is your Flesh Eater Courts. You've got Tanky Death, which is your Ossiarch Bone Reapers. You've got Hordy Death, which is like actually where Night Haunt, Legions of Grief, and stuff like that I think are following in. And then you've got this LON, which is like a little column A, a little
very
column B.
differently.
They're very and in that respect, I consider what they've done with Grand Alliance a huge success. I want to see LON 2.0 because the longer we get away from that book release, it was a great template for Cities of Sigmar and Slaves to Darkness and these sort of like
if they
massive
come out with like a Cities of Sigmar like Legion, then yes, that would be really.
We need to see that LON book evolve because it just took all these existing War Scrolls, packaged them up together, and put them in a book.
There's a few books that we do need to see evolve from that time period.
Yeah, LON, Nurgle could use another Passover, right? Like,
man, I think Nurgle's fine though. Like
Nurgle is in a good place though.
The Unmodified Sixes brought them into the now, and there's so many tools outside of Nurgle. What did I said was it on Twitter or somebody's like other page? I said that like Nurgle is like stonks are on the rise. like if I were in the stonk market, I would be buying Nurgle.
Like it's always a popular Chaos God, and then just like it slowly gets more popular.
But Brendan, it sounded like you had more thoughts on Nurgle than just like my hot take.
But the Nurgle doesn't really care about always strikes first, always strikes last, because the whole point of Nurgle is to be durable.
Yeah.
So okay, cool. You're swinging first. You killed 2 Plague Bears. Neat.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm just kind of gonna chip away at you. I'm just gonna be more than you. I'm just gonna be here. And
in a game that wants you here on objectives, that's pretty good, I hear.
Yeah, like my meltdown list, I had like maybe 3,000 kill points at the end of the 5 games or something. But I was still like 4-1 just because it's like 30 Plague Bearers, -2 to hit in combat, rerolling 6s to hit and wound is hard to get through.
Mm-hmm. What the piece that's always been missing for Nurgle is being able to turn on the gas and punch you right back. Because you just
that's when 40 Plague Monks was what I was running,
right
personally.
And
but like with their little nerf, like they're still strong. But like there's some stuff you got like Plague Drones are strong. They're expensive though.
Light Lords
are good.
They just got better, yeah.
Light Kings now, especially with the battalion coming down.
Well, Blight King, since you
can't
just
did I
-1 to hit,
who was I talking to about Plague Touch being good again? Like who was I talking? Like one of the first lists I built with STD was it you? I think. I'm like the first list I built was a Plague Touch with the new STD book, and I put it back in Nurgle. I'm like, this is good.
It's really good.
This is
Nurgle
good.
And Slaves to Darkness Nurgle keyword is good.
You take that you go into the Nurgle GA again. You bring that Plague Touch.
Or
you bring
just like Nurgle in that Slaves to Darkness book. They're
sure.
both pretty good.
Sure. Yeah. I but the thing is, like, I want to play as my Grand Alliance.
Yeah, I get
or
you.
as my faction.
You want to play in that book. You want to play that.
Yeah. So like I'm just taking the best tools I can from Slaves to Darkness, and I'm going into the Nurgle book and I'm playing Nurgle. And I think that it plays really nice. That was one of the first lists I built. I'm like, well, Plague Touch, did they fix this? Because I remember when this was a nightmare army, like just an absolute nightmare. And it gives you that little extra punch that you need, and you already have all the tools and tricks you want with just you don't care about shooting. If shooting comes back, Nurgle goes, fine, shoot me. Like they don't care. Ooh.
Like, you have modifiers to it, or you just have the tankiness to it.
Yeah, you just like fine, shoot me. Like they position themselves really nice in this hypothetical meta that I think is evolving. If all these, as the chips kind of settle, in where I think they're going to be with the 12 books in 12 months that we got with these next 3 books we're theoretically supposed to get, I think Nurgle is very well positioned in the meta. And Nurgle has always been a fan favorite army. So build a couple of the key pieces you're missing, shift your list into that new meta, and this is a list. It's a list scientist's dream right now, and Nurgle is one of those armies where you just go, this has the stuff.
You got a lot of tools. The other thing that I don't think gets enough play is marked Beasts of Chaos Nurgle.
What's that?
The Beasts of Chaos marked Nurgle.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you were experimenting a little bit with that.
They die when they explode. They die when they explode, right?
It hit 13 viewers, so 5 more gift subs.
Right.
Thank you so much for the 5 subs there, Soren. Well,
the
yeah, I mean,
explosion's not the important part. It's the Bestigors going in there and
Mario Kart.
benefiting from what Nurgle does.
Yeah. You take an already fast army, you make it faster, and
you get the wheel, you get
the wheel, you get the blades of
things.
petrification or
Putrefaction.
Putrefaction. I'm sorry, I'm thinking
Yes,
Petrifex.
Petrifex is
Yeah, I'm thinking Petrifex. Yeah, putrefaction. Like putting that on Bestigor. Ooh, baby. Like you can bring a Grashrak into there too. I believe because he can ally. So you
the Shade Spiral guy?
He gets plus. So he gets his +1 to hit on just everywhere. Like so now if you're playing against Order, you're off the charge against Order. You're re-rolling with a +1 to hit. Like let's go. It's like threes. It goes down to like 2s and 3s, I believe. Like
it's like 2s to hit, 4s to explode.
Yeah, they go nuts. So yeah, there's some really good stuff there. Pestilent Throng. Yeah, I think that's the thing with Beast of Chaos. And I'll show my desolating or my bestilating best herd. They play really like the thing that they have is Bestigors, and marking Bestigors and putting them in Khorne, putting them in Nurgle. They give those armies something they're lacking, which is that that super punch, like 30 block or 20 block of just
Beast
elite
of Chaos
grinders.
and Slaves to Darkness have like the same thing of like those books. No matter what you do to them, have ways to get into other books with their units that are good.
Yeah.
So you're always gonna see that.
Yeah.
And that's always gonna constantly evolve, and then maybe eventually we'll come back to the natural book of like all herds or whatever.
Yeah, and I'll share my all herds list tonight. So yeah, so real quick,
all herds get nerfed on the FAQ? I can't remember if all herds got nerfed on the FAQ.
I didn't see it get nerfed.
I don't remember if it did or didn't. I don't know. You guys play basic, so I don't know if you guys are paying attention.
All herd's pretty great. I'll talk about it in a little bit. So so real quick, we're talking about like list science. You got to have the tools for list science, right? One of the tools on the back end, I think, is this AOS reminders. That's once you get your science, your list all scienced up. I've got my subscriber version here with my cool dark background because you should always be.
I like AOS reminders. I just wish that he had a form that like there's the 5-page form and then the simplified form that's like 1 page max, 1 or 2.
At Davis Ford, he's always trying to evolve it. Right now,
because that's my only complaint with AOS reminders is because I don't want to turn through 5 pages, so I will always make my own thing and limit myself to 1 page front side. So I only look at that one side, never have to flip over.
Yeah, and you can
nothing like that. I just lay it flat, and that's all I see. Granted, I lose that paper round 1, game 1, never look at it again.
Well, and here's the thing: is like Relian Brad actually, like I saw his cheat sheet.
But like that's
he has,
what I like.
He has the before I knew AOS reminders. I saw Brad's cheat sheet. It's laminated.
Yeah,
and he marks right on
it, and then he marks it with
right
the
on
dry erase, and then he erases it, which is really smart. Which is what I was trying to do, but then I lose a lot of things.
It's preparing yourself to win. Like you're giving yourself the tools. And one of the things I strongly urge. Why I love something like
reminders is really nice. It's just I wish that it was more condensed. Personally,
he's working on a condensed format right now. That's the one that won the poll.
It gives a lot of like.
You're setting up an order of operations.
All, like, it gives like all the rules and all like that stuff. It's just I wish I could see it. I guess like maybe a little condensed. Like that's all. It's just like a condensed version. Yeah.
So like what I was gonna say though to caveat this is. Your goal with something like AOS reminders is to get it, to download it, to set up that order of operations in your mind, to train yourself to play your army the right way, and then to never need that fucking sheet again. Yeah. like it helps set you up for success. It builds parity, and then you keep that sheet with you. You reference it quick for some casting values when you're second guessing yourself. You show it to your opponent.
Or magic. People make like those magic cards.
Yeah.
And like we'll put like that on there, or like those Hearthstone cards, like whatever. Like,
I try to keep
whatever like variant you like.
I think player aids should always nod towards efficiency.
Yeah.
I see a lot of player aids, and some of them are actually like wasting time for the player.
Yeah, some people like put out like every single card possible,
and I'm just like,
it's like you don't need that many.
I stole your dice technique, for instance. With
my little like bins of 10 dice, different colors for my Conan.
No. For a Nagash's spellcasts.
Oh no, that was I learned that from Jake LaCour.
Yeah. Well, so I guess I've stolen Jake's liqueurs because you just roll the 8 dice and you go.
Yeah, you
Okay.
put 8 sets of 2 dice, and then you
And that's
grab and grab and grab.
that's more efficient than any other player aid I've ever used for like Nagash's keeping on top of Nagash's spell.
Yeah.
I experimented with having spell cards and then flipping them as I cast them. I experimented with just like dry erase sheets and like honestly it was just the dice. That's all I needed. Yeah, and
But no, I do recommend if like like with Counter-Ruck, when I knew like I'm gonna need 90 dice, I did 9 tubs of 10 sets of color dice. Like if you need like this unit does like 40 attacks most of the time, do like a thing of 40 dice. Like set like those aside if you're concerned about time.
I
like,
do
set, like you set dice things aside.
I've always done
like, in, like
blocks
little
of
tubs
20.
or stuff. Yeah,
I
or like
do
blocks of a
20.
reliable number.
Mhm.
Like 36 is what people do with like those chess
The
exercises.
cubes. Yeah.
36 is like a reliable number, but it's an awkward number that not any unit fights at.
Yeah. I do a couple blocks of 20, and then I have an assorted set of dice for like okay, so I know these guys do 22 3 times. Okay, so now I grab my block of 20, I grab 2 dice for my assorted pool, and then I roll it 3 times. Like
like something like that is what I would recommend for like anybody, just because time is something very important for both players in a tournament and can very much annoy opponents. Like
I think it's the fastest way
but I've definitely seen people
I think it's the fastest way to lose sports votes is to just waste people's time.
Disagree. I
Really?
think the fastest way to lose sports votes is to tell your opponent that they're cheating before the game had started.
That they're what?
That is also a fast way to lose sports votes.
I missed it. You cut out that they're what?
That they're cheating before the game starts.
Brilliant. I feel like there's a story there.
I think I told this one on my last RantCast where it was Adepticon doubles.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and they handed me the lists, and I looked up and I said, these lists are illegal.
Brilliant. Yeah, so we're talking about design philosophies now. So when you go in to build a list, Brendan, you haven't talked for a little while. How do you start building your list?
I start by reading the book. And
do you read the narrative part?
Yeah, the narrative part. It's the fastest way to understand what's going on. But more seriously, it's going through, kind of getting a feel for what the army does from a rules perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm a strong advocate of do what the army is great at and don't pay too much attention to trying to overcome the weaknesses of that book specifically.
Right.
Now, there are some that, as you spend time with it, you go, I can't win these games unless I do something to mitigate this, and that's where allies come in or different unit selections come in.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm pro sharper blade kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so that's where I start, and then I look to something I talk about in Cubic Shenanigans, which is answer the question. What questions is your list going to answer?
Mm-hmm.
How is it going to answer them? In what manner is it going to answer them? When is it effective to say that it's okay to not have that answer, necessarily, because something inherent in the list is going to be able to handle that problem. And we have a very large amount of data in terms of dealing with a global meta. So you don't necessarily have to know intimately what it is that the Slaanesh army does. You just know that this is what the list looks like. How do you get around that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So meta predict. Yeah. Go on. Continue.
So that's my jumping off point.
Okay. So you start with the answer, sort of asking and answering the question of what this army does, getting a feel for it, and then building to that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I guess on a more personal level, what attracts you to certain armies over others? Is there is it like a common quality they possess? Like if you're faced with 2 lists that both win equally, right? You've got two armies, hypothetical armies. I won't put it in specific terms. Two armies that hypothetically win. As exactly, we look at the data, they win. They have the exact same win rate and favorable matchups, across the spectrum. But one's like a shooting list and one's a grinder list. One's a tanky list. Like, how do you have certain things that you gravitate towards in an army?
Yes, absolutely. And
obviously death. But death is best. But more philosophically speaking.
Yeah, so 2019 was interesting for me because I didn't do a lot of my own original list writing and playing. I really, my only original list that I played an event with was my Paco list. And then everything after that was basically a borrowed list from somebody. So that's, running the Flesh Eaters, Ghoul Patrol, Gristlegore, running Brad's Slanesh list. I didn't write those lists, but those lists play really differently from my inherent play style because those are very aggressive armies. I feel better playing very defensive, very patient armies, and I don't get knocked out of sorts when I look at the table and go, okay, I need to be doing this by turn 3 with this unit. I need to be doing this over here. As good as this unit is, I can't commit it until later. That doesn't bring me any anxiety. I'm very comfortable in that manner. The other kind of list that I feel very at home at is one that involves a Death Star.
Okay, that's an interesting take.
Yeah, so I like to think of a Nagash list as a Death Star because Nagash himself is
60
your summoning Nagash list.
60. You're summoning Nagash or the 60 Grimghast Reaper.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Which version of your Nagash list would you declare this one as?
I mean,
it's in both. It's certainly in both. I would say.
I think all of them were Death Star lists because Nagash is the Death Star. The things around them are
because Nagash can do a lot.
Exactly. The things around them are the things to be concerned about. Nagash is the one that's making you, as an army, bad. He's the one that late game, when I gotta commit something, he's gonna go in and just punt that unit to the moon. I'm not committing him turn 2. I'm not committing him turn 3 because the game has not broken down yet at that level. He is best suited handing out his reroll save rolls of 1, his hit rolls of 1, and his immune to battle shock.
Yeah.
And now, casting Arcane Bolt a bazillion times, casting all these spells to make sure that you, the opponent, don't have the opportunity to play the game that you intended to play. Mm-hmm. I have Geminids. You're -1 to hit. You're -1 attack. Now I've reduced the numbers on all of your units by at least 16%. Before I was stealing Van Hells, but now I'm not.
Yeah, I mean, he's very much the gas, very much the engine for a lot of those armies. I think in Petrifex now, Petragash, he's that again. He's doing that.
Yeah, he is the main tool in Petragash.
Because
the Mortec Guard are just the pushing it.
Well,
the wheels of the engine.
Yeah, and he's gonna give them that rerolling ones to save and hit. Mm-hmm. He's enabling that too on them with that command point. Yeah, the battle shock part is blank on the scroll now, but he still gets maximum value out of. He gets more value out of rerolling ones to save in Petrifex than he does on your traditional skeletons and ghosts.
Oh yeah, because he gives them the shooting rerolls, which is what Petrifex is really weak versus his shooting phase.
So he's enabling that, plus the Nadirite weapons. He's saying, I auto-cast this. Now try to stop me if I get a good roll. He's putting all the gas, in the tank and just, smoking a cigar whilst recklessly dumping gasoline onto, into the engine. He's awesome. I actually think, the Petragash list, I don't think it's the best list, the Bone Reapers are capable of by a long shot, but if you love Death Stars enabling foot slogging ass kickers, this is the list for you. And you want to do it with a little spice, with a big centerpiece model, and Daughters of Cain, for instance, their foot slogging the best way to run them is their basic battle line and just take a bunch of them, steroid them up. But their steroids, their steroids aren't big flashy cool stuff. Right?
No, you're not like Marathi's not buffing things besides like Mind Razor and Daughters really.
Right.
Marathi is essentially a 500-point distraction piece in Daughters.
Yeah, it's a distraction fact.
And a 500-point assassination tool.
Yeah.
Because she can assassinate a lot of mini heroes. She can just go in and be like, this unit will not leave me, and they will die before I die.
And she's insurance on hero cap plans.
Yes.
Like she's insurance on those battle plans. She says, I have 3 turns. If I get there first, I have this for 3 turns.
Oh,
like,
right. Like
3 turns, you can't.
Those missions are hard to win versus Daughters unless you outdrop.
Well, you gotta go with the 2-1 strat, right? You go,
yes.
I can't take that, so I'm gonna take these 2.
Well, even then, you got to get through like 30 wish outs surrounding the little hero in the center.
Yeah.
And all that stuff.
Yeah, but Brendan, you play a game.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So Brendan, would you say? So Brendan, you say you're a 5-turn kind of gamer versus like the first 2 turns person, like of an alpha strike. We want to get this done right now. I try to cripple you now, make it so you can't play later. Versus where you will be like, I want to see how the game evolves, and then close the gap in 5th turn.
Well, I think that was the thing when I was running. Peak Nagash is I didn't need to see the game evolve. I knew what it was going to be. It was, I'm going to get Geminids out on the field. I'm going to cast Overwhelming Dread. I'm going to cast Van Hells.
Oh, with Grimgas Nagash?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Peak Nagash.
Yeah, that was certainly Peak Nagash.
Right. And yeah, the game's going to go 5 turns, but from the beginning, your army couldn't do anything. So, oh well. Playing hyper-aggressive lists, except for Beast Claw Raiders for some reason, is incredibly foreign to me. Like, it took me a long time to get my arms around the right way and time to commit things in Flesh Eater Courts. It took me a bit to get my arms around Slaanesh and when to pull back, when to commit, what to commit, how to commit, all those things that go along with it. The other style that is really foreign to me is like hyper elite, kind of how Dave runs, where he's got 27 models,
very little models, and not a lot of ways to bring things onto the board.
Right, and so like I think there is a Kavalos Death Riders list in this army.
Oh yeah, Kavalos Death Riders are really good.
I've got a 33 model list that I've drafted up for Kavalos Death Riders. That's what I plan to play the tail end of the year, because I think that's the army that requires the most finesse.
I had my Kavalos Death Rider list had 30 Death Riders, 2 Kavalos. Like I think it was 1 caster and like 20 or 30 Mortec in it.
Yeah, mine was it was a 1 block of Mortec guard. The better list was, so I start with the theme and then I build to make it good. Is how I usually I go into building stuff. So I had a 33 model version, which was like just 30 Death Riders and then 3
just like full like horses only thing. I don't want you not on a horse.
Yeah. That was a fun build, but I don't think it's the best build. So I dialed it back to like 1 Death Rider's Lance. I think it was like 2 and 10, and then like an actual like 30 block of Mortec guard. And like I refined it from there, and I'm like, but like I looked at it, I'm like, this is the finesse build of the army, because like just marching boots onto objectives and grinding you out with like my force multipliers versus your force multipliers, and I'm pushing my chips to the center of the table saying I think mine are better. Like that playstyle comes very obvious in for me in Ossiarch Bone Reapers especially, because I mean I'm just playing the Bone Zone again. I really am. I'm 80
your
skeletons.
Names for your list are the best.
Thank you. I'm just Bone Zone all over again. Like I'm gonna beat you with 100 skeletons and force multipliers. And I'm gonna attrition you out, kind of like how Brendan's talking. I'm playing for turn 5. I will beat you because I know that I'm just gonna grind you out. You can't I'm just pushing my weight around the table. With skeletons, the tricky part, they have no gold. They have no net underneath them, unlike Grimghast Reapers did though. Grimghast Reapers had like a net underneath in that 9-inch flight. Really was like, oh shit, something did go wrong. My plan that I foresaw.
Like they can get out.
They can get unstuck and they can go do something. With the skeletons, you gotta the best way I put it, and it's actually kind of bastardizing something Brendan said to me a long time ago, was you just got to get your skeletons in motion a turn earlier than anything else in the game, and that was really what
it really helps with the Petrifex +3 inches to move.
It's
Bone Reapers.
Huh?
Bone Reapers. Sorry, I just say Petrifex. I feel like when I say Bone Reapers, I feel.
Yeah, I mean that's what Bone Reapers
when
do.
I talk about that army, I talk Petrifex at the current moment, but that's not to discredit the book. Every other thing in that book is fun. They're good sub clans or I don't know.
There are 4 good ones. Ivory Host is bad. I would say that there are 3 more than worthy.
The Ivory Host is the Gur one where it's super aggression one.
Yeah, except it gives you a
bad Petrifex.
Well, that's the thing is that it nerfs your armor to give you a buff you have in abundance.
There's a lot of the ones in that book still. There's the exploding skeleton thing. That's cool.
Fun. It's cool.
That's fun. That could be pretty good, reliable to do something.
You do that one with harvesters, right? That's the harvester build.
Named one with Catacross, that's pretty good. If Petrifex gets nerfed, that one's pretty good. The skeleton horse one, that one's an interesting one. The reason you don't take the horse the horse list that we're talking about in that one is just because Petrifex is better.
If they didn't print Death Rider Lance, if they didn't print the battalion to give you half of what Staliarch Lords is doing, Staliarch Lords would be
part about Staliarch Lords.
Retreat and charge is all you want, man. It just you put people in the washing machine.
Is huge.
It's a great ability on a 15-inch base move model. That's insanity.
And on lances don't they get better on the charge?
Yes. And your impact hits now. You're making a mini Stonehorn engine now. Where you're just fucking monster trucking around little satellite units of 5 and just boom. Okay, this one's out and that one's at boom, and you're just swirling around the table, retreating and charging people, and taking objectives and crap. This one's it's good. It's very good. But the thing is by putting that in the battalion, half of what you wanted from Staliarch Lords, it disincentivized you to go Staliarch Lords. You take Death Rider Lance in Petrifex, and now you're Ben Kingsley from the end of Lucky Number 11. I live on both sides of the fence, and the grass is always green.
I didn't understand half of that, but we'll go with it. But like you were saying about Petrifex, if they didn't print Petrifex, then that book becomes a lot more diverse and interesting.
I still think the cream would rise to the top with Mortis Praetorians. Well,
obviously,
and then you're
running. The cream always rises to the top in every book.
Mm-hmm.
It's just Petrifex, instead of gaining one thing, gains 2 things.
You get offense and defense for the same company.
Yes, that's the main thing about Petrifex.
Well, and Ren 2 is good in the high armor meta that's going to emerge, right? But then, on the flip side
is Ren 4.
So here's the thing: is I think skeletons, for instance, I think Legion of Nagash once more looks at some of these meta monsters and go, I have answers to that, because my skeletons actually don't give a crap if you everything's a mortal wound that you do to them. I don't give a shit. I'm just gonna bring 12 back.
Death saves or whatever.
I'm just gonna put 12 of them, and I'm just gonna put 12 of them back anyway.
You don't kill the full unit. If you don't kill the full unit, I'm bringing enough back. You kill the full unit, I have enough. I have a command.
All I have to do is stick you in
back, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, all I have to do is stick you in combat an extra turn by making 2 death saves when you thought you were about to wipe the unit. Now you're stuck in for a little bit longer, and now the Graveguard come in and just chop them up. Legion of Nagash is a fun, has fun answers to a lot of stuff. The thing is it doesn't it's not playing with the new technology, and that's the thing that holds it back. But yeah, Petrifex, Mortis Praetorians, and I'll break down the argument real simple. So the +1 armor you make up real easily. You have to have gone. Yes, you have to have gone to get the +1 armor, right? Instead of Petrifex, you just always have it. The thing is it's pretty easy to run some battalions that will allow you to out deploy to go first. what you're really looking at then becomes the difference of bonuses to wound that are scant throughout the book versus rend, and that is a honest argument. If you lacking rend to get bonuses on wounding from specifically Xanthos, so if you're running Mortis Praetorians, you have a lot of force multiplication that you bring into that list, and then you start to like actually. I have to wonder if Mortis Praetorians isn't gonna be better in the long run.
Petrifex is the easy button, and
it's the easy mode.
Eventually, people will realize the Mortis Praetorian will overcome Petrifex.
Ren 2 is overkill. I only really need the Ren 1.
Because eventually, the meta will turn oh well, we don't need this Ren because 4-up save turning to a 5-up is enough. We don't need it to turn to a 6-up.
Or rats are just gonna start coming out of the fucking woodwork and just blow your army off the table, and you're like, okay, now I need to actually kill them, with my counter shooting. Like now I really need to kill them with my counter shooting. I mean that's what the
Rats is a good army.
That's what the Mortek Ballistari says. It says
that's a fun army to make lists with, by the way, because it's just what do I want to play with? I can play with anything in here.
OBR I think is a success of design. Yeah,
yes.
Okay.
Yes, OBR is a success.
Blah blah blah. Petrifex. We can beat that dead horse if we want. It's okay to be great, and I think they settle in just at great. I know what the numbers say; they're above great right now. But even IDK, top 5'd in the first 2 major tournaments right after that book came out, and then it kind of cooled off a little bit, and then it kind of normalized. We're living in that.
Because people didn't understand how to deal with. Here's a bunch of eels that in your face.
Yeah, and right now people have forgotten what high armor looks like. Truly high armor. Right?
Because we got rid of we got rid of Staunch Cast.
Yeah.
And people were like, okay, well, we don't have to worry about armor saves right now. Let's just go with a mass amount of attacks.
Yeah, and
now we have armor back, and it's this isn't working anymore.
Actual armor. Yeah, and even the tankiest shit Witch Elves, Hagnar, and Fire Slayers, it's after saves. It's after saves that we're giving them a lot of their durability. Witch Elves in particular are a great point because Hagnar, you're getting those sort of double after save, rerollable after save type things on idiots who would just explode otherwise. And then what you do sneak through on damage, they have a ton of bodies to spare. Petrifex kind of has it and kind of doesn't because you do have some regen. But as you remove pieces, you have 60 to 80 Petrifex bodies, I think. Actual Mortek guard when it comes right down to it. Brendan, what's your main list running right now? How many body?
I sent you my list.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess I'll pull it up right now.
Right. So yeah.
Where are we? List tech? No. We'll come back. All right.
I think it's list number 2.
List tech 2. So yeah, here we got the. Yeah. So this is the list you've been running lately. We've got Petrifex Elite, actual Catacross. Liege Cavalos.
You've gone away from Archon to Catacross then?
Yes.
Liege Cavalos, the Mortison Bone Shaper, which is kind of your auto. I think this is your auto include caster for the army. If I'm gonna, someone asked in a previous RantCast what's the underrated hero of the army. It's Bone Shaper. Bone Shaper
Bone Shaper's really good. Soul Mason is also strong though.
Yeah. Soul Mason's good to great, but I just find myself throwing in Bone Shapers, 2 Bone Shapers into some lists sometimes.
Bone Shaper is nice just because you get those 3 people back. Just for free. You're
just 3, and then you have Catacross or Nagash or Archon, and you're adding more bodies back, like that. I think they're really good. Plus the Artisan's Key I see you've got Artisan's Key on Bone Shaper, which is the way for that double, for the double regen. It's a 4-up double regen, as I recall. Yep. And so you can get 6 models back half the time, which is pretty fucking great. And then the lore on the Mortison Bone Shaper is the empowered Nadirite weapons to get those exploding 5s instead of exploding 6s or exploding 4s if you got lances. So then you're running 50. I see 50 Mortek guards, so a block of 30 and a 20 block. And then you've got 2 Cavalos Death Riders, min units, 5s with swords in Cavalos Lance. So that is, of course, the Liege Cavalos plus 2 units of Death Riders. So you took basically the minimum of that, lowering your drops, getting that second artifact so you can grab that Artisan's Key. And then for your endless spell, you went with the Nightmare Predator, which is a a bold move.
That was really nice in our game when I played against. I think was it this list or was it like something similar to this? And I played against the Predator. That did pretty well.
It was extremely similar to this. Right. So the Predator ends up being kind of a Hail Mary. I've got 40 points to spend. You know, I obviously can't buy a command point. I couldn't anyways if I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
You look at some of the other spells. The Carrion really doesn't do very much for the Bone Shaper. You're really only hurting yourself. The Bone-Tide Streaker is not helpful here. You're getting Catacross's buff probably anyways. And the Predator can just deal so much damage. Yeah, it's a 7 to cast, but man, it can really bail you out of some tough spots. To toss in a bunch of D3 mortal wounds here and there, and then D6 to a hero that you need especially dead. If you're casting on the bottom of the turn, you're doing it twice, and that's real frustrating. So here is what I talk about with the triple threat in my list building concepts. So the first one in my mind is the Leech Cavalos.
This is the TM 3 threat methodology. Brendan Melnick's, like anytime someone uses it, you get like a quarter or something.
Yeah, sure. The first of which is the Leech Cavalos and the 2x5 Death Riders in the Lance. That's the first one. That is the most flexible thing I have on the table.
This is the threat-seeking missile. It just is gonna
It's pin you down, force you into a bad place, make you make a decision, and if I can get you to make a decision on that first threat early, awesome. I have just put myself in an advantageous position by making you think that that's what I want you paying attention to. Now, if you ignore it, I'm going to do a lot of work. I'm going to break through your line. I'm going to hit things that you don't want hit. I'm going to pop screens. I'm going to take down key heroes because you chose to ignore it.
Yeah.
But if you do pay attention to it, now you've wasted your time on the other two threats. The second is it's really either of the Mortec Guard, a 30 on its own or the 20 supported by the Bone Shaper.
That Bone Shaper's heal is artificially kind of maintaining that strength of that unit. Is I think what
of the 20, yes.
It's what the takeaway is. 30 on its own is a great satellite unit. It'll just scrap. It'll do what it needs to do.
Yeah, because OBR seems to be unlike other death, where like they don't need like that necromancer, I guess, as like or a hero with them to keep the units up. They have that like leading commander in there so they can kind of like go and beat themselves.
It does make you make tactical trade-offs though. Because you can't project your 6-inch buff if you're going to daisy chain out. So you do kind of like lose...
You do have to stay within those little like clumps.
Yeah, so you will lose some of your power projection to do some of the other stuff Death loves to do, which is do the daisy chains and do that stuff. So it's something to be aware of. That is a trade-off in design that people love to oversimplify when they argue about how too good something is versus, and that's one of those ways you could like oversimplify it. On the other hand, it is a really handy tactical advantage that Ossiarch Bone Reapers, this is the death of the current Age of Sigmar game. Because, quite simply, death as it used to exist, in a battle plan like the new Scorched Earth, where there's, 8 points to contest?
Yeah, it's like one for every like fourth or something.
Yeah, old death just kind of can't contend with that. It's so hard to project enough power. And so... when the designers looked at what's a new death army look like, and they've kind of taken up. This is what Death Rattle look like in Age of Sigmar. This is the fantasyified skeletons, right? We got the spooky boys and what those look like when they're pushed to 11 in design in Age of Sigmar. Now we got that with Bone Daddies, and I think we're going to see it with Vampires here very soon because that's about all we're missing now. To get all those things Age of Sigmarified. But yeah, you get to project your power, and that 30 block does that. That says this is its own little contained 390 point block. Like you're you're putting points into 30 skeletons.
Yeah, no, more the OBR, like, it's a strong army, but it's a taxing army points wise. Like, there's nothing cheap in the army.
It's so
like, some of the heroes might seem cheap, but overall the army is expensive.
Yeah,
it's cost efficient at the same time.
Like Brendan's he's like got this 3-headed snake, these the 3-threat methodology. That Kavalos block going around doing work, that's 680 point investment. That's he's throwing 680 points.
And it's only 3 units too.
Yeah, but it's 1 drop, you know, like, so that's in the battalion, so like he's kept his drop.
I'm just saying that's like 3 units. Like, but for 700 points, that's 3 units. I think that's expensive, but it does a lot of work.
It's tactically flexible though, because exactly what the Liege Kavalos and the Kavalos Lance do, because you do get that retreat. Strong. Kavalos Death Riders, 5 of them, a single 5 block is.
I assume this is all swords and stuff.
Usually, yeah, swords, because if swords gets first off, swords stuck in is just better, and Ren 2 is, you kind of want to have Ren 2 around. Especially with a scalpel unit going around and deciding what a problem is and dealing with it. Plus, you've got mortals off the charge. You've got that retreat and charge to like enable that, and all your healing is bringing back a single horse because they're 3 wounds. One block of Kavalos Death Riders is 1 single unit of 5 is about as effective in terms of like survivability, more so than my standard 10 block of Black Knights, and their damage output is higher. I'd say that the others are tar pit a little bit better. The Black Knights tar pit a touch better because you can get that double death save on them, which is how I tended to run them. But like Kavalos Death Riders they're just a lot of value in that unit, and it's nice to have that 15-inch move skeletons is just fun.
Right. And then, so with this list, the third and final prong is Catacross. And it's not necessarily obvious when you're looking at what the army is doing, but the fact that he's sitting there and, you know, giving me 5 relentless discipline points. He's making you -1 to hit. He's making me +1 to hit. I'm stealing your command point. If you do nothing about him all game, you are going to lose the game. Mm-hmm. So I present you with 3 things that you must deal with in order to achieve success in the game. Now, if you pick wrong at the wrong time with the wrong unit, now it feels like I have 4. And even if you pick right, I have other things to help deal with whatever your selected solution was. And when I go writing lists, I never leave home without 3 things that are going to make my opponent go, ugh, balls.
Yeah, so and this is part of your stuff. So like maybe compare that a little bit to when you were doing the sort of traditional Gristlegore. Did you still have your 3 things in Gristlegore? Because I know for a lot of things it's like the one big obvious thing is the main Terrorgeist. Usually there's a second Terrorgeist, I believe.
So the list was Abhorrence, Archregents, Ghoul King on Terrorgeist, Ghoul King on Zombie Dragon, Little Courtier, 40 brick, 10 brick, 10 brick, in the Ghoul Patrol Battalion, and then the Chalice. So in that list, what it was, threat number 1 was the tooled up Super Terrorgeist for dealing mortal wounds and being generally scary. Threat number 2 was the Zombie Dragon for dealing with high armor save. And then threat number 3 was the Ghoul Patrol. And just the sheer threat of it being potentially somewhere, anywhere. It's something that the threat imposes itself immediately in deployment where you have to make that consideration. And even later in the game, 40 Brick of Ghouls is a real pain to try and burn through.
And 40 ghouls is actually, like, that's right now it's not like a good source of damage because we've changed to the high armor saves. Like, when Flesh Eater was the top dog, 40 ghouls is a ton of attacks.
Double activating ghouls, oh yeah.
Double activating ghouls, and just like, with like whatever that little hero buy that gives them like +1 to hit or rerolls or 1 extra attack, whatever, like that 1 buff that just turns ghouls on. like that unit can definitely go through something.
Right, you're talking like 5 to 6 attacks a guy pretty reliably,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a generally unpleasant premise when you're talking about 40 guys twice.
25 mils.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, they're 4s by 4s. Fine. Whatever.
Rerolling a lot of hits, too.
We'll solve the problem in volume.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and that's the thing is, like, okay, they might bounce off of Mortek Guard, but there's still a lot of other stuff in the meta that 40 ghouls do deal with, you know.
Well, and if you're attacking Mortek Guard with the ghouls, you yourself have made a mistake.
Yeah.
If you have the opportunity to pick the fight, and 2 of your tools are, one is a mortal wound machine, and the other one is Ren 2, and you're throwing ghouls at that problem, that's a problem that is fundamental to you as the player, not your list. And that's an important distinction.
Yes. Yeah. And this is target priority, and I don't want to like harsh on the average Age of Sigmar player, but like I really do feel like as you get into the game, and this happens to me, you tunnel and you forget target priority. Because like you attack the target that is presented to you, which so often is playing into the stronger opponent's hand, right? I mean, for instance, if you throw those...
I have been able to bait people with just being able to, like... Because you can see if people are going to tunnel priority based on what units they look at. I have been able... is what I personally see.
Mm-hmm.
Is because you can a lot of times see opponents next turn based on what they look at on the table. Because they will map it out with their eyes. Is what I've always noticed.
Well, and this is again, there's a reason we have a term called distraction effects in Warhammer, because that is a legitimate strategy and tactic that is reliable enough to warrant its own name, right? And Catacross actually reads a touch like a distraction effects to me.
And if you don't kill Catacross, he is a monster in combat when he's wounded.
But the thing is like he devalues you to shoot him. Because, like, if you don't fucking take him off, you have wasted shooting. Because he's just going to regen back up. And still project most of his buffs.
Because, like, he's full wounds, super buff, like, buff piece. Very low wound, just, like, going to kill anything in the game. It's, like, just monster... Not, like, anything.
I think
like, he's a monster in combat.
Yeah.
Okay, Godtrack's a weird unit that's just, like... That thing is, like, its own little...
I love Gotrek though. But
Gotrek is Gotrek.
If Gotrek
Gotrek will kill whatever.
If Gotrek got to Catacross, you have made a mistake.
Gotrek is the exception to like every rule.
He's a fun. The thing is like his weaknesses are so obviously telegraphed on his war scroll. And they basically tell you they tell really big weakness. They tell you how to stop him. Just like just drown it in skeletons, you know, like just throw the derpiest.
If something's underneath 100 points, just throw it at Gotrek.
Yeah, like he's still got to take a turn to kill it.
But if 3 inches away from him, he can't fly.
No, just 4 inches. 4 inches away, make him have to charge it.
Yeah,
4 inches away.
Whatever.
Just like
close enough, then charge.
Like you can either run around it.
Yeah, don't let him double pile.
Yep. You can either run around it, or you could just lines of ghouls 4 inches apart as far as the eye can see.
There you go.
Just circle him with, like, you put 3 ranks of circles of, like, 80-point units.
Yep.
Like, here's your 3 turns, Gotrek.
You can either run around it, or you can fight these, like... Because he is just the Terminator.
This is what I have to do.
He is just the Terminator. He will fucking kill you. Whatever is just in his way. It's like he walks through the water and just like comes out the other side. You know, that is Gotrek. And in that way, I think he's a successive design, actually. Like, I think he's fucking...
is a fun unit to play against and to play as, which which is a success. Because, like,
absolutely.
Sure, he can kill anything, but he's not unkillable.
He's got answers. And the answers are like obvious, you know, like it says on his war scroll what won't kill him, and so by the process of
teleport was a very smart choice, and not being able to like do like certain things to him, like that really helped.
You can get run and charge in IDK, but like IDK is already doing what he does, So like, is it
If you put Gotrek in IDK, you're giving up so much because it is such a low model count army.
Well, like you're looking at like 6 eels do about as much damage as him off the charge, right? Like nine eels, and it's like, do you want to not fly and do his damage?
You're giving up 9 eels for Gotrek.
Yeah. Do you want to do as much damage as Gotrek and not fly, or do you want, like so? So it's cool, and this is where list science can help us. You have to, when you're going through, ask what's this thing's job, right? What is the job of this thing I'm putting in my list? And with your three threat methodology, the job each one of those things is doing. Right. When you're building your list. You know Catacross is the force multiplication, and he's gonna slap shit when he gets to his target. He has to be dealt with. You're saying, I've got 3 things, deal with me, and by the way, I'm gonna try to always force you into the unfavorable position. So you know that going in. This is Gotrek's one of those where if you're theory crafting, building lists with Gotrek, I think the best place to play him right now is actually Cities of Sigmar. He does something.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting things in each city that you can do with him.
I think that's where you play him. I think that's where you play him because he's answering the question that some of the other stuff can't. Like a Griffin, they don't have a monster, just a monster hunter type.
Yeah, because a Black Dragon, like Dreadlord, is decent.
Yeah.
Like it's got problems.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're overall slow and
problems.
But like your gun lines, you can do some pin and win tactics with them with like some other stuff, so you can actually get a massive quantity of quality bodies in Cities of Sigmar already. So you don't mind paying a little bit of a tax and putting a quarter of your army points into a guaranteed threat or / distraction effects / deal with this. I mean, this is actually your three threats thing. Gotrek's one of the threats. You're going to say, this is one threat, and then you're going to go, blocks of shooting, Phoenix Guard. And, you could just you have these threats that you can build in that list. I like your 3 threats thing, man. I'm going to steal this forever.
3 threats thing is nice. It's definitely more,
D6 heals. The D6
3 threats is definitely a little more, I guess, I would say, I don't know how to describe it, but it's more, formulated than how I make lists.
Well, so
it's just veteran savvy. That's what this is.
Veteran savvy, yeah. So how do you go into making lists then?
So yeah, if you want to pull up, well, I guess that's his whack list. You can pull up my Skaven, my most likely pack Skaven list if you want to.
All right, so we'll go with the hard list. So this is Skaven.
Brendan, is that your pack? Is that your whack list?
I mean, my girl bat is also in the package I sent him. So.
So this is my whack list. So how I make lists. Unlike Brendan, doesn't have a 3-prong thing.
Okay.
It's a 5-prong.
Nah. So I normally come up with every list I have. So I'll choose the army first off, and then it's I'll do the research beforehand of what army with what's working currently.
Well, you had a streak of a new army event, and you were really ambitious.
Yeah, so Brendan really didn't enjoy this, but because he would always be Isaiah, you
the
should
one
just,
year, the 1 year thing.
one army, one for a while, and just learn that one, and it'll be better. But I was nah, no practice. Let's go to a tournament. Let's go. I'll write the list the Saturday before. That's what I'm doing, and that's what I've done most.
So how do you, when you were in this period of kind of list sciencing, I would say actively researching at all times. Tournaments were research.
Okay.
How would you go into knowing pick an army, picking it
when it's due? I would be what army am I playing? So let's say the Skaven one, it was because of the Father and Son challenge. Skaven, I already know from talking to Tronzo, I need a Gracier on bow, I need a Warp Seer. And then it's what's good in the meta. So I want hordes, and it's how do I do with hordes? Thankful. I just want to try out Thankful. I think Thankful is my answer.
I think Thankful is gonna be a nightmare for fucking OBR, actually.
I think it's my answer right now. I think
that's where my Cavalos Death Riders come in handy.
Yeah.
Gracier also does some good things for hordes.
Right.
Gracier also does some good things for hordes.
And he can Thankful can be skitter leaped, yes?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can.
No, Thankful is the one in there that can't.
Okay.
Too many
Or
wounds.
is I think it's Bell and Thankful that can't.
Bell can't be because it doesn't have
Because Bell can't do any move without having clan rats nearby.
Yeah.
I believe is why he can't be Skitter Leap.
Yeah.
Also, too many wounds, I think.
Yeah, he's 13. Thankful is 14. You need to be 12 or less. And
All right.
Warp Seer is 12. Gray Seer is like 6.
Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. So you can't.
Compared to Brendan's 3-prong.
Unbelievable!
thing
Thank you so much
is-
for the follow there.
My
Sorry, I had
thing
a radio
is,
voice.
I want. Yeah, you're fine. My thing is, I want at least one range threat and one combat threat, and that's my minimum.
So you, when you build a list, it sounds like you have like a checkbox. You're like, I want this, I want this, I want this. Like
I want one range threat, one combat threat, and one thing that moves fast.
Okay.
Or teleports or something like that. Those are
Right.
my 3 things that I want in a list.
Okay. So you have criteria that you go through,
Mhm.
and then you kind of go toward the best in slot and or the meta answer in those slots.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Cool.
Why does this die?
So what we've got here for your list is you're rocking Skaven. This is a an actual like Skaven Tide. Is
Mhm.
this what is it? The Master Clan then?
It's no
should-
clan.
Yeah. So basically, all right. So you got a Gracier. This is the one on the Bell. Yeah. Gracier on Bell.
Yeah, Grace
on
on Bell, Master of Magic with Skitter Leap.
Yep, and then we've got Thanquil, riding Bone Ripper.
Mm-hmm.
Vermin Lord Warpseer, which is the unkillable one. It did go up in points recently, but like it's
It doesn't have
no.
the unkillable artifact though.
all
I
right.
have Skaven Brew on this list.
Okay, all right. You're running 60 clan rats, which are just
Yep.
these
Mid battle line.
yeah min battle line. It's hard to kill these things because they don't. They're all shock immune
Oh,
bubbles.
Storm vermin, interesting.
Storm vermin. So what's the role your storm vermin play?
My one combat threat.
Your one combat threat.
Wouldn't you be better served in that list finding a way to get Death Frenzy or at least double Death Frenzy to make that unit all the bit scarier?
So I could put Death Frenzy in on any of the 3 Gray Seers, but I don't really want Death Frenzy at the moment because I just want the Mortal Wound output of Plague for Hordes with Thanquil. I want Warp Gale's Hero Sniping combined with Dreaded Warp Gale, and then I want Skitter Leap's movement. That with the things that fight first, I can just deal with the Mortal Wound output of this list, is my philosophy.
Okay.
And then I can always summon in Death Frenzy as well with Black Scars.
Good luck.
See, there's a reliability
Yeah,
strat right
yeah,
there.
yeah.
You know, Black Scars every game.
Yeah, and so I've noticed you
Um,
just choose to roll better. It's always
Yeah.
what I encourage people to do. So then you also have you're rocking Aethervoid Pendulum, which is still it's still one of the best at what it does.
Anti-Marathi technology.
Yeah,
Aether Void is great.
You're running the Warp Lightning Vortex. In its nerfed and points increased state, it's worth playing if it's.
I didn't go up in points. It's
well,
just less range.
It went up in points the last time.
No.
GH.
No, but it's always been 100.
It's always been
points.
100. Okay, all right.
Yeah. Thank
All right,
God
and then-
it's been worth every point of that 100.
Yeah, with Skitter leaping heroes, I don't think the nerf to the range is really that big of a deal. Although you don't have chains to go with it to truly overkill shut down somebody, so it's just going to neutralize essentially one target. And then Ravanax Gnashing Jaws, which is just Mortal Wounds output on a...
Yeah, it's a 40-point Mortal Wounds.
Yeah. So, so you get through and you check the boxes on it. It sounds like you're a little bit of a theme, what I call a theme builder. Like you have a theme that you're building towards. Obviously, the theme this weekend was the father-son competition, or for PACA rather, not this weekend, is to play Skaven, and then you went through and you had to check your boxes of everything you wanted. So one thing I've noticed that I think is essential in list building is force multipliers, steroids.
That's what Skaven Brew is in this list, and one of the reasons why I took the Storm
what
Burn is because Skaven Brew kills D3 models in the hero phase and gives the whole unit plus 1 attacks.
Okay. And
Once per game.
Once per game, yeah. So you have like a once per game like steroid. in there.
Yeah.
This is where like plague monks with the plague furnaces like have a.
You can also take out the Gracier on foot and the Storm Vermin in this list and put in a max unit of, what are they called? The
Zazales.
No, not Chazales.
See,
Storm Friends.
No, we're not Molder. Rat Ogres. And a Master of Molder with the reroll wound rolls for a combat unit.
So I don't know.
Reroll wound roll artifact.
I look at this list with things like Slanesh and Flesh Eater Courts in the back of my head, and I don't fear it in a meaningful way.
Flesh Eater Courts on their turn, like then that's when you want Death Frenzy, but on your turn it's like you don't care about Death Frenzy. Slash with the 5-up, that's why I didn't care about Death Frenzy personally right now.
Mm-hmm.
And because with Keepers, like the Keeper's the only reliable one right now.
See, I feel like you're missing one of the two things that are just truly great, either Warp Lightning Cannon or Jazales. I would
Jazales are nice, yeah.
Like Warp Lightning Cannons are a little bit of a catch-all thing, and Jazales clearly, with the Ren 2. Ren 2 becomes Mortal Wounds.
Jazales are super strong.
It becomes Ren 2. Ren 2 becomes Mortal Wounds against certain armies. Against
pretty much
against 5 armor. Like you are pumping out Mortal Wounds, and then for armies like Petrifax or Petragas, the only thing Nagash fears is like essentially like high Ren shooting. It's the only thing he hates. So I feel like that's something that's kind of missing. But like I said, you went in with your theme build, and that's the boxes. I think you need to add a couple boxes to your checklist though if you're going to go with that style of building, which is steroids. I just don't think there's enough steroids. There's not enough gas in this list to get you there.
I've dropped Thankful in one of my list buildings and then put in 9 Jazils and then a Arctic Warlock, and that's also an option.
Well, since you shared kind of your P.A.K.A. intended list, I'll share my P.A.K.A. intended list, which is Bone Zone 2.0. This is we're out of the beta testing phase. We went to live, and now Petragash is here. It's from the realm is from Ulgu. That means nothing. It's Nagash, the Supreme Lord of Undead himself, a Mortison Bone Shaper, because like I said, you pretty much want him in every list. And mercifully, Nagash isn't forced to be the general.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask. I was like, what? Like, what on earth is this absurdity?
Yeah, so he's not forced to be the general. So I get to go all in on the Bone Shaper being just harder to kill. And I actually put Protection of Nagash on the Bone Shaper instead of the Empowered Blades, because Nagash is just going to cast the Empowered Blades.
Right, that makes sense.
I want the Protection of Nagash on the Bone Shaper because the way the rule works is you keep the buff until it goes off. And
currently, yeah.
Well, they missed it twice now, so I'm like
Yeah, we just gotta make it like 5 days, and it's P.A.K.A. legal.
Yeah, so 5 more days, and then if not, then I'll put something else on them. But basically, it's mobility. You can put that Protection and Nagash on that Bone Shaper. A little bit harder to kill my very hero light army. So this was a theme. This was a theme build. I wanted to play Nagash. And so when I do a theme build, I go, I want to play this thing, or I want to make a Giants army, or I want to play I want to make this good. Now some things fail that threshold of being good, right? And we'll talk about one of my other lists. So you're like, I want to make, man, I really love this model. I really love Cygors, so I'm going to build a list that plays with Cygors. Well, you're going to have a bad time. You're not going to be able to get a lot out of that list. But like with something like Nagash, you go, okay, I want to play with Nagash. What is the most enabled I can make Nagash in a competitive sense? Now, it doesn't need to be competitive. You can build towards fun. You can build towards whatever. But in my case, I want to play with Nagash. I think Nagash is already sort of self-comping enough because I don't think it's the best Bone Reapers is capable of. So now I'm going to make Nagash as good as I can make him. And we've got 3 units of 20 Mortek guards, all with swords. Nagash's, so Bone Shaper can directly sit behind 120 block, just like with your list, Brendan.
Yep.
But Nagash is spiritually sitting behind every unit. projecting his heel to his heel is table wide. And then I've got 1 unit of Kavalos Death Riders, because, you need that fast moving thing to set the point of attack when you're running Nagash. So the role playing is a little bit different with my Kavalos Death Riders. This is not a threat in this list where you have your like 3 threats. My 3 threats are 20 blocks of Mortek Guard and then a 4th threat being Nagash himself. Like that's my army is Mortek Guard and Nagash. That's the army. And then everything to enable them and steroid and buff them up. Plus then the 5 Kavalos Death Riders to scoop an early objective, to dictate the pace of the game or set up someplace I want to fight. To assassinate a hero later on in the game. If you don't screen them well, they can charge in and do that stuff, because it's really just going to be it's really just going to be marching Mortek Guard and closing in the gates and just crushing you, winning the attrition, thinking about 5 rounds of play, right? That's what this list does. And then I got Bone Tithe Streaker in there. So I want to go through a little bit of the mentality of the list. Bone Tithe Streaker and why Mortison Bone Shaper is here. Because I had a version of this list early on where I actually ran a Liege Kavalos for that precious +1 to attack. He can give that to Nagash too. Ren 2 and 3 Nagash is pretty sweet, I hear, like from Petrifex steroids.
Ren 3 and 4 is even better.
Yeah, Ren 3 and 4 is even better. So you have that Petrifex steroid, plus you're giving him extra attacks down the profile from Kavalos. Like, he becomes a fucking murder machine. It's pretty great. But the problem I was running into is Nagash has to cast the Bone Tithe Shrieker. So with Ossiarch Bone Reapers, something you said early on, Brendan, is understanding the army. You come to understand the army. One of the things you go on to understand the army with Ossiarch Bone Reapers is you can get +1 to hit across the table in any number of ways throughout this army. Right? You can get it from Mortis Praetor, you can get it from Catacross, you can get it from the Bone Tithe Shrieker, you can get it from Ivory Host. Like, so in my mind, I went, that is a necessary steroid to maximize the potential of this army. So every list I build finds a way to get that +1 to hit. The first thing I see when I see an Ossiarch Bone Reaper list, I go, where's the steroid for +1 to hit? Like, and then boom. So Bone Tithe Shrieker. And then that answered the problem. Do I want +1 attack with the Kavalos Death Rider? Or do I want somebody other than Nagash to cast that Bone Tithe Shrieker? Because I don't want Nagash taking a -1 to cast on all 8 of his spells.
Smart. Yep.
And so, with my theory crafting, I look at my own weaknesses and my own synergies pretty much at all times. I'm always looking for steroids. I'm always looking for weaknesses. Kavalos Death Riders answers a weakness. Mobility. Now, your mobility isn't as huge of a problem as it is with old Bone Zone 1.0, which was 80 skeletons. So, Death Riders, this is actually like the flex points. This 180 points can become another hero. I didn't think I'd rather have these 5 regenerating bodies maximizing Nagash's heal than something else. As really where I rounded it off. It could become, most likely what it becomes in the future after some testing is one of the Mortek Guards goes up to 30 and that becomes 2 endless spells. Or an endless spell. I think you kind of want Geminids. Like, I think Geminids goes far in this list. It's a little overcosted, but honestly, you're always in this weird wiggle room of 100 points with Petra or with.
It's so painful.
Yeah, you always.
They're so weirdly pointed at like 130 for Mortek and stuff.
Yeah,
it's like awkward.
You end up with this 100.
And you can't buy that command point too.
Yeah, so you always end up with this like 100-point wiggle room where you're just like, you have to like change. You have to do these like big changes to get like little points investments left over. And so what ends up happening with that is like, oh, I could like Kavalos Death Riders, 180 points go out. And then I can buy endless spells and like another set of Mortek Guards. So it's a really weird wiggle room. But what weaknesses of the army identified early, it's 5 drop. 6 drop. So like I'm not really out dropping anybody. So now I know that weakness going in. I'm going to deploy to get information.
6 drops is still
it's good.
Decent amount of
good.
Drops. Like
they've crept up to 5. I think the average is 5.
5 is a competitive amount of drops.
I think
a lot of people are still more than that.
And shooting lists are the ones that you really want to outdrop. And a lot of like heavy Skaven shooting is going to be like 6, 7, 8 drops. So so like I just went in with my theme. I want to play Nagash, and then I said, okay, how do I get every steroid into my army? What are the weaknesses? How do I compensate? And some weaknesses you can't compensate for. So you lean into your beatdown. And one of the big conscious decisions I made was I didn't want Nagash casting Bone Tithe Shrieker, so that nudged one of my list decisions away from a different steroid. So to maximize Nagash's potential. Nagash with +1 to hit on all of his fucking weird ass attacks was pretty good too, I hear. You know, like yeah. And Petrifex
twos and threes on the sword.
Yeah.
Useful.
Yeah. So that's my this is my packet intended. This is Bone Zone 2.0. If I don't get this other 20 box of Mortek guard built, I'm gonna build another 5 Cavalos Death Riders and take some endless spells. So
those Cavalos take so long to paint. Oh my god. Like I'm burning through the Mortek guard, but I don't enjoy the fact that I'm standing at the precipice of a mere 10.
Yeah, so we'll come back around to... So now we've got your Uralbad mod tribes list. From Akshi, I immediately saw Akshi and Boulderhead, and I knew what the fuck was up with this list. Do you want to take us through it?
Yeah, so I think that this is maybe the best mod tribes list. And I don't mean that like in like an ironic sense. I think the Uralbad Boulderhead mod tribes list is the one that has the fastball.
So I actually Doom from Doom and Darkness has been running a lot of bat reps with his Maw tribes, and I've watched him evolve from like kind of the immediate obvious thing, which is a bunch of like Gutbusters, like the you know Ogre Bowls or I'm sorry Gluttons, and watched it evolve and like really get pruned down to like more like to the 2-3 Stonehorn build, and then just kind of bodies builds like monsters and bodies. And I tend to agree. I think the best way to run it is you want to run at least 2 Stonehorns. Period.
And I've got 4.
So take us through the list.
So the list is this 3-drop, and the Huskard on Stonehorn, the units of Mournfang, and then the Stonehorn Beast Rider are all in a battalion. The Uralbad, which every unmodified 6 to hit is a mortal wound on top of the regular damage. And when you're thinking about Mournfang, which have 7 attacks per model, and you're thinking about the Stonehorn Beast Rider, which has 6 plus D6 plus 8 or 6 or something like that, you're talking about like 15 attacks, and then the Huskard himself is another 6 plus D6 plus 4, 3 or 4, yeah. And so what did we just say here? So 14, 28, 42. You're looking at 70 attacks, roughly, that every 6 to hit is a mortal wound, on top of the fact of doing impact hits, on top of the fact that they still have their regular damage. All the good stuff.
Well, this is a list that I look at with, like, say, my Petrogash list, and I go, you've got enough mortal wound output to thin those 20 blocks into, like, uselessness if you get the charge, right? If we play a game of Age of Sigmar, you can take apart, like, a unit of Mortek Guard easily a turn. Just, like, without even rolling to hit. And I'm, like, a 6-up death save or a 6-up after save is nice, but I'm only saving 1 in 6 units that die, right? Like, mortal wounds answer the Petrifex problem really well, too. And I hear that mortal wounds are good against a lot of other armies as well.
Yeah. rumor has it, but basically everything in here has rend on top of it.
Yeah.
Which is the other thing to be cognizant of. And so the battalion itself is good. Now the Huskard is what I love as the murder horn. That's the brand of Svard with the black clatterhorn mount trait, where the horn is 2 up. The guy on the horns are 2 up, 3 up, and the crushing blows are 2 up, 2 up, and you go, cool. Yeah. Then you've got the support piece in the the flying crunch horn, who is your general, who gives +1 to movements monsters in the boulder head. Also cool. And then the last one is another Frostlord on Stonehorn, which I gave the Charger, but it's the one that gives +1 to charge for Mournfang and Stonehorns is also very good.
Yeah.
That one's a little less important.
A disturbing lack of ethereal amulet.
Look,
Full damage. Go for it. Go for broke.
You don't gotta make saves if you ain't dying.
Right.
If they dead, you don't need to make saves.
Nailed it.
Right. And this is another example of you leaning more into something you do really well as opposed to trying to compensate for something you don't do well, which is survivability.
Right. So I could see somebody taking a look at this list, dropping the second Frostlord on Stonehorn, and taking like a screen of Noblars or 2, and you might have points for a Butcher in there. I'd have to think about it. Now you're upping your drops, but you're increasing your ability to survive, some other stuff. But you're a 3-drop, and you are gonna rip roar and run across that battlefield and just punch him in the face.
So you actually.
Oh, go ahead.
You actually have more than three threats, though. Every Stonehorn is a threat. Every Stonehorn is a threat. They can be on the thing. Stonehorns without the brand of Svard, the Black Clatterhorn, the Murder Horn. Their threat potential is more swingy. I've found. I've had Stonehorns crash in and just most of their damage came off the charge because you just whiff 4s to hit sometimes.
Right.
So the black Clatterhorn, that is a real and legit threat for 320 points. That's just gonna fucking grind shit. It's just gonna smash dudes. And similarly, I think that the Frostlord on Stonehorn, the general with the Metal Cruncher, this is a target priority thing. Metal Cruncher getting into that extended combat so you can crunch because it happens both hero phases as opposed to just smashing you. But with the Thermal Rider Cloak, you can put it where you need it.
Right.
Just period. So
I look at this, my threats being the Crunch Horn, the Murder Horn, and then personally it's the rest of the Eurobad operate kind of as their own
like a death
bubble. Star. Yeah, and that 4th Stonehorn is just kind of extra.
Okay.
As I'm defining their battlefield role, which is fine, to have a spare Stonehorn in a list where battlefield roles have already absolved themselves of their purpose. Cool.
What ends up happening is you get to you have the Maw Pot still in this list. Do you need to have a hero buy the Maw Pot to use it once?
I believe so.
Yeah, you need a Butcher, I think.
Boo.
No, I think I think it's just a hero.
It could be a Huskard or Frostlord, yeah.
No,
one thing I think that is going understated right now about Maw tribes is late game. The quality of their body in the extended game is bonkers. The number of times I've watched...
They're two per model.
Yeah,
right?
Well, it's the 10 on the monsters, really.
You're
not just gonna fucking, here's 10 skinks at the end of the game, yoink a point from them anymore. It's so... And then, the fact that, they're maintaining... As you damage a Stonehorn, until you kill it, it's still 10 bodies. And so, you're investing models into fighting them to try to take points. So the later that game goes, if you keep your 3 Stonehorns alive, you still have 30 bodies of capturing as that protracted combat comes out, as you grind people out. That ability now kind of tips in their favor to like just retreat, run a dude onto like a point and be like, now I have 10 bodies. Or if you've got like a single Mournfang straggler, I've got 12 bodies now suddenly capping this out from underneath you. It's opposite day for the Beastclaw Raider player.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, you know, if you do get the pot off that one time to just extend each of their lives by just a D3 on those monsters, just to unchart them each once, or say you.
Well, and that's the other thing in Boulderhead that's worth keeping an eye on is you can spend the command point to re-full tier yourself, especially on the flying crunch form.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the other thing is like is they really like on one hand it's like, oh man, Beastclaw Raiders don't have a whole lot to spend their command points on. It's like put them in Boulderhead. Now you do. You know,
right.
Beast of Chaos are similar, where it's like, oh man, I don't have anything to spend my command points on. I know. All heard. Reroll charges, reroll ones to hit, all heard. Everything else is all heard.
Yeah.
I found myself ending
Aether Quartz Brooch. Let's just go casino dice here.
Let's go. Yep. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. So yeah, I like this list. I really do. Haywo's got a really fun one too. That's in this vein that he was sharing with us. And then if something goes down 20 points, he gets to live the big dream, I think is what he called it. So he's got a fun list. But yeah, I think you've got gas. And what was it that Sean was talking about, the 3 and the 2, the 4 and the 1 and the 5-0 is comfortably 3 and 2. You know.
So Sean and I had the conversation of like the paraphrase was like any list that like he was building was like for 3 and 2 is the reliable like game players can like go for 3 and 2 like with like their skills and with like matchups and stuff, and then 4 and 1 is matchups.
Mm-hmm.
Like
four,
because like
4 and 1 is the
4
player.
4
and 1 is the player.
4 and 1 is the player. With the one loss can be sometimes missions and matchups, and then 5 and 0 is matchups and luck, because you do need luck and matchups to win it all. Because there is some just like that's not a great matchup, that's not a good list for you, that's not a good mission.
Well, and I call it running hot. Like you're not going to win if you're not running hot. The best player in the world, if your dice turn against you, you'll drop a game.
Yes, that is also true.
Especially when you play the other best players in the world. Mm-hmm. If your dice are against you in that matchup, you're going to lose it. So there is a component of luck. We play a game of chance.
Or luck if you're playing like a deep strike army on like total commitment.
Yeah. You gotta have skill is a prerequisite to win it all.
Yeah.
From there, the other stuff becomes, becomes like the difference. And so I think that's important, and that's what you're doing when you're building a good list. Is you're meeting prerequisites. I'm a skilled pilot on my list. I'm giving myself the tools to compete. One thing I didn't mention about list science, when you see the list of somebody who won Masters or whatever, sometimes they make decisions in their lists for themselves, for their own play style. And that's something I think you really need to be cognizant of when you build a list, is running just like a self-diagnostics. How will I use this model? How will I use it, right? What is my winning strategy with this army? Like, I talk about Black Knights for so long and stuff like that. Why was I running 10 Black Knights in my Bone Zone list? You know, like someone else might look at that. Them. Well, because I fucking love them, but I knew what I was using them for, because I didn't have Grimghast Reapers to just, fly over like terrain. So I needed those 12-inch can't fail a 6-inch charge, that 18-inch threat to say, I'm stringing out these 10 bodies, you're pinned there, so my skeletons have the extra turn I need to take over the board. I was thinking about how I was using that. Now, getting in your reps, going, is this worthwhile, is another part of it. Is it worthy to do that, or should I just be doing the other better thing, right? Or does it even work out? Thinking about that role-playing power. I found, my Black Knights always worked out for me. Well, not always, but I found that, they worked out. And I especially, where I really fell in love with them was against KO. It was putting 10 Black Knights on KO on Clown Car when Clown Car was still around was just like, yeah, fuck you guys. All I need to do is get these things to your Arknaut company, and then you
yeah,
can't.
then you can get to like the little key
And
thing.
now you can't. Now you can't shoot Nagash. Now Nagash can like actually survives a turn to go ahead and pinions. Hopefully get the double pinions, and then start to throw his weight around with some Black Knights and stuff. And at the time, they could have you could shoot out of the combat, right? So you could shoot out of the
Right.
combat and onto Nagash.
Many moons ago.
Yeah, playstyle is a key thing for a lot of people. I currently don't have an army that fits my playstyle.
Because you don't play an army.
First off, I do have a playstyle, but no army fits that playstyle. My playstyle is the Wrath of Lich King rogue, if you're curious.
So new
or if people
Seraphon when it
play-
comes out.
Or if people play League of Legends, it would be Yasuo. So it would be like-
Yasuo's good people.
Yeah. But that would be my play style. I thought it would be Deepkin when I started playing Deepkin. But the thing about Deepkin that I found out is that the way that you think they play is very different from how they play. But they're still fun to play. And I do enjoy playing
They
them.
really are a one-trick pony, but
They
that
are.
one trick is
I'm-
very good.
I'm excited for the Dark Elves when they come out, though.
Okay, so this one list is actually called the semi-comp list. So
Oh, my Deepkin list? Yeah.
yeah, so I'm gonna switch over to the semi-comp list, and then I want to ask you guys as a just sort of a transition or a segue into this. Do you like what are your thoughts on like self-comping? I feel you're both gonna have different.
Yeah, if
perspectives.
you're interested in doing that in the competitive sense, I don't want to hear the complaints at the end of it of
Yeah, like...
of what could have been.
If I hadn't taken this weaker unit to
Mhm.
self-comp, then I could have won the tournament type thing, right? Like, you know.
Right. It's like at Meltdown. Well, if I didn't take Beast Claw Raiders, I could have finished top 10.
Mhm.
Well, okay. Like, if I was wealthy and handsome, then, I wouldn't have to go to work.
Right. Yeah. So like I think that's a strong take. That's important. What about you, Isaiah? So you obviously you've sent me your self comp list.
Yeah, well, by semi-comp, I just meant that it's not as competitive as
Oh.
like other versions of Deepkin. Like
Okay.
I have a fully competitive Deepkin version
I see.
of the
So this
list.
is a semi-competitive, which is still I
Yeah,
think plays into
like-
the take of self comp.
Like it's yeah, I get that, but like I agree with Brendan. Like if you're going to a tournament and like you bring, I guess, a list that is self-comping and that you yourself self-comp, I guess, if that's how you want to describe it, don't complain about it at the end of the tournament.
Okay.
I guess in general, just don't complain at the end of a tournament to
Well,
other people. I mean, like
Now, if
complaining.
you're doing it to flex on people, I'm here for it. Like, that's...
Complaining can be a fine thing in general, done in the right proportions and for like the right things.
It's fine to blow
but
steam.
it's like
it's fine to blow
Yeah.
steam. Like it's fine. And I think recognizing how if things were different, things could be different is a valuable
Mhm.
sort of self metric for growth.
Yeah.
Like being aware of these things help yourself, but you got to keep in mind that that's for you and not for like other
Mhm.
people necessarily. My thoughts on self comping is I don't have a problem with it. By the way,
Mhm.
provided you're not complaining of the coulda, shoulda, wouldas, of
Yeah.
having done it. Self-comping is a handy tool that players have to take the sting out of certain situations. This comes into your expectations of a tournament or
Mhm.
a local meta LGS games. Like this goes into being an adult and being aware of your opponents and what they want and what you want. And you don't need to self-comp if you go to a tournament to win the tournament, right? If you go to the tournament to party in the mid tables because mid tables have a ton of fun, then maybe okay, you take some sting out your list to make sure that you end up there.
Yeah, that
So
is what this list was meant more.
so that
for,
you don't-
instead of like the 18.
You don't have to burden yourself with the expectation of winning if you self-comp. I think that's actually a handy tool. Like on one hand, maybe it's a bit of a cop-out. You're like, oh, well, if I had run it's only a cop-out if you complain though, right?
Mhm.
If you knew I'm taking Slanesh, but I fucking love Fiends, so I'm gonna fucking run Fiends. And now you're on the middle tables, and you're just having a blast, and you're the one bro that nobody hates for playing Slanesh because you just love
Mhm.
the army. You're just gonna have a good time. I'm running Nagash. I think some people will think that's kind of a bit of a self-comp because I could be running a little spicier build. I think it's got gas, but we'll see when, part of this list science process is, having your hypothesis, testing, drawing your conclusions and observations, and then repeating the process, right?
Right.
And observe and report is a necessary part of that. Peer review, also really important part of the scientific process, but peer review comes while you're playing games with your buddies, playing one-dayers leading up to the big tournament, or whatever the, us talking right now could be considered as peer review of talking about each other's lists and stuff. So that's all necessary. And that's what I'm doing, is I've got a hypothesis. I think Nagash in Petrifex has gas in the tank. I don't think it's oppressive the way some other builds can be, but, I don't think it's a soft matchup either because some people just lose to Nagash. Some armies can't beat him.
And some missions are very strong for Nagash.
Yeah, some armies just can't deal with that. Now, I would love to put my Umbral Spell Portal back in there so I could just give the middle finger to Marathi all over again because that's a lot of fun. But with Petrifex, you just fucking pimp walk up into a fight with Marathi. And then if you don't kill me in this turn, next turn I'm going to flip that coin and try to kill you. It's I can't wait. It's gonna be so much fun. But that's what I'm doing, that to let you into my brain a little bit. I think about what would be fun for me.
Yes, but
and then
semi-comp, I did mean more
semi-competitive,
going towards the
mid tables. I think
the 18 eels, like that. This is we're going for it all. We're going broke list.
Well, and so I see that you've got double.
Granted, this also double Eidolon could be taken as that as well.
This is
double Eidolon. Double Eidolon is definitely is more fun than 18 eels.
I see. I would drop one
of
Eidolon.
the Eidolon without the artifact has the Blade of Symmetry, by the way.
Oh, okay.
It's just when I emailed it to you, it didn't save the custom.
Oh, okay. So you do have the Namarti core in here. Yep. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So take us through the list through your semi-competitive Eidolon.
So it's Blade of Symmetry Eidolon, Cloud of Midnight Eidolon. So one tanky, one offensive.
What's
it's plus one damage. It's plus 1 damage on the spear. So on the charge, the Eidolon has plus 2 damage.
Okay. Cool. And then Cloak of Midnight is Vanish immunity from World of Warcraft.
That's the
once untargetable.
Versus so you can spell, shooting, or combat.
This is also the combo with Forgotten Nightmares. You can put out this one in front of somebody, a shooting list. Cloak of Midnight say this is the only thing you can target. It can't be targeted. It's just now they can't shoot you for a whole turn. So that one's cheeky. I love that. That's a great combo. So, and then you got your Ishirin, Soul Render.
It did take away the fun thing of when they were artifacts can't go on the mounts, the followers or whatever of heroes. Mm-hmm. So you can't put the Sword of Judgment on the swordfish.
On the shoal anymore.
Yeah, the swordfish. Yeah.
Darn.
Yeah. And then the Soul Renders for the Marty Core. The Soul Scryers for the bonuses to charge because the Eidolons are big bases that need to actually get a decent charge off to get anywhere they want to go.
Yeah.
The Tidecasters because Futhwan or Domham are kind of the only two things that you're kind of going for in Deepkin right now.
Mm-hmm. And then Futhwan, is that the prayer one?
Futhwan is the one. So Futhwan, this is if you flip the tides 1, 3, and 5, you're running in charge.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And turn 2, you fight first.
Okay, yeah. Tidecaster has to be in that army to flip the tides.
Tidecaster is the general. She's Steed of Tide, so any of those heroes can teleport.
Yep.
And then -1 to hit from her spell is also
Born from Agony is just an extra wound or whatever.
2 wounds.
2 wounds, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then it's 2 Thralls, 2 Reavers for the Navarti Corpse, and then 6 Eels.
6 Eels.
And then an extra command point.
So what you're conceivably going to do is you're going to scryer a block of 6 Eels and the Killy Eidolon, right?
You could put the Eidolon in there. He might be hard to scryer with them. Okay. Or you could put each flank has an Eidolon. Mm-hmm. Or you can do one flank has both Eidolons, the other flank has the scryer and the Eels.
So that actually brings up another point about list building, list science. Think about how you're going to deploy your army. This is very important. Brendan, for instance, this is where your three threat methodology really works. Is you already have an idea of how you're going to deploy your 3 threats every game.
Almost always.
Yeah. Yeah. Like,
almost completely regardless of mission and opponent.
mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's another strong concept to keep in mind when you're winning stroke. I say winning stroke because that's the game design terminology for video games. It's a winning stroke.
Yeah.
But it can be called like a winning strategy in chess, or I think winning move I hear a lot in Age of Sigmar. So like keeping in mind your what your winning strokes are. How do you win a game? My winning strokes for my Beast of Chaos army are a lot different than my winning strokes for for like Ossiarch Bone Reapers or any of my Nagash builds, or my Death March winning stroke is dumb. That was the Bone Electric slide. Speaking of great names, so Namarti Reavers, Namarti Thralls, like in one respect, this is where battle line you got to get your three rolls, and
battle line they're good for objectives, and they can clear out hordes pretty well. They can clear out like other screens, that kind of stuff.
10 Thralls fight a monster relatively decently.
10 Thralls fight a monster. 10 Thralls plus 10 Reavers clear out hordes decently.
Yeah.
10 Reavers or 20 Reavers can shoot off a screen to get the charge for other units.
Yeah. I've seen a lot more people starting. I wish Reavers would get tapped down another 10 points. Like I just want to see.
They should be a little. I feel like they should be a little bit cheaper than Thralls because they're a little bit less effective.
Yeah.
Thralls should be cheaper than Thralls.
I would hear a case for both getting.
Thralls,
I would hear a case for both of them getting tapped down 10 points. When I saw the Thrall War Scroll, when I first saw it, like cast my mind back. What, a year, whatever ago.
Many moons ago.
God, there's been so many releases.
1.5?
1.5 years ago. It's been so long, we've had so many releases, my brain doesn't know how long ago it was. But like when I first saw the Thrall War Scroll, I'm like, these guys are fucking great. Swordmaster attack profiles, yada yada yada, and I'm like, oh, they're on 32s. Immediately changed how I felt about them. And so like, I feel like when I looked at like Ossiarch Bone Reapers, I'm like, oh, these guys are going to be on 32s because like just what I saw happen to Thralls, and then they weren't, and I'm like, Thralls either need to go cheaper or be on 25s. Like you put Thralls on 25s, they're fucking murder machines. Or
give them range 2.
Or give them 2-inch range, 2-inch reach,
range
like Grimghast Reapers have 2-inch reach. That's why they're awesome. Plus, flying makes piling in a lot easier for them. Like
they're so good.
Like you've got to be in one of those two spaces. You got to have like the 2-inch reach on the 32s, or you got to be on the 25s, like to really be as effective as that War Scroll says you are.
It's also weird because they're an elf, and elves are like never on 32s. Which is why people, I felt, were like, how are these on 32s? Because historically, elves are 25.
I'm fine with them being on 32s if they get the 2-inch reach, or they go down.
Like they're on 32s, yes. But like, and they also look like they should be 2-inch reaches.
To be fair, I think 2-inch reach is the change I would make because I like that they're on.
2-inch reach is the easiest change. Also,
I like that they're on the 32 mil basis because of the poses and stuff. They feel dynamic and they feel more heroic with the 32.
Like the 32 because in that army it gives a nice screen because it's elite and they actually need that.
Yeah, but like give them 2-inch reach, #fixed, and then drop Reavers down just straight up. And then everyone knows what Morsar Guard go. These are the explodey eels. Really great off the charge, not so great in protracted combats. So they have to kill what they're fighting or they get stuck in.
That is true.
I would maybe in this list change the Soul Scryer and the eels out for a king.
For a Kellyan King?
Yeah. Turbocharge those
Turbocharge. Well, yeah, so this is turbocharge. Well, that's giving them that steroid, like really. Yeah. So the Allegiance abilities, by the way, are already giving you a steroid. And that's something, when we talk about, like, every army you want to look for force multipliers, every time you build a list, right? Sometimes your force multiplier can...
The problem with Deep King, though, is if you take the king, you can't flip the tides.
Sure you can. Oh, no, because he's got to be your general, right?
He's got to be the general.
Got it.
Yeah. That being said,
that's fine. You wait a turn.
I think it's fine to wait a turn. the number of times people actually flip the tide. Like, think about, like, the battle plans that are over on turn 3. Like, you're right. The turbocharge turn is when I want to end this. And then you just don't even, like, outflank. You just march up the board honestly. And and make them deploy poorly trying to screen for the Soul Scryer. And then just, okay, 16-inch flying coming straight at you. Again, that goes to, like, thinking about how you're going to deploy your army. So speaking of how you're going to deploy your army, that's exactly what... So this is El Clasico. It has been slightly updated. This is my all herd best delating best herd list. It has had a facelift since a couple of changes, though it has not had all of the changes. This is my version of the list that hasn't embraced Slaves to Darkness yet. Which it will.
Bellacor's not in it.
Because Be'lakor is not in it. Yes, Be'lakor should be in this list. Be'lakor probably replaces Grashrak, as much as it pains me.
What does Be'lakor give you?
Apart from the trick, which is the shut off someone, which is just a trick, he's a melee monster that fights really well.
Yeah, like, he's pretty good.
It fits a role that, like, for all of the swagger Beasts of Chaos have, you don't have that, like, that condensed threat with a single model. And that's just, like, a necessary tool I feel most armies want. That's where I like what's his name? The Terminator in Cities of Sigmar. I like having a condensed threat.
Dwarfman.
Yeah, Dwarfman. I said his name perfectly 1,000 times earlier, and I suddenly just forgot it.
Gotrek.
Gotrek, yeah, Gotrek. All right, so 90-point Beast Lord, because I wanted to spend as he is necessary for the battalion. This could be a Doombull now. Doombull at 100 points? Yo. But the reason Beast Lord and not Doombull is he naturally outflanks, and everything in my army should be allowed to be put into ambush. This is a key when I built my army. Because how you beat people with Beasts of Chaos is by not playing the game of Age of Sigmar the regular way.
It's by doing something else entirely.
Yeah, you're not even playing the same game anymore, and that's something you need to be aware of. The thing is clever opponents you're gonna steal wins by playing cagey off of people. You're creating sort of tactical asymmetry with this. But if the other player has the same knowledge, that tactical asymmetry, you're just kind of on the same page with each other. And so, like, they know what you're trying to do, you know what you're trying to do, and then you're just poker facing them at that point. Poker face.
Trying to outdeploy them and stuff.
Pretty much. And that's one of the strengths of Beasts of Chaos. If you wanted other strengths, you would just God mark them and go play them in somebody else's army. What we're playing for, right? Or Slanesh, Nurgle, Khorne. Yeah, Khorne Bulls are pretty good now. I hear.
Like that we never have mentioned Tzeentch with Beasts of Chaos.
I love Phantasmagoria, and I think it's back. And
maybe
who knows?
In the new book,
who knows what the book does? Like, that's just gonna make. Do I want an alpha striking like Chaos Enlightened, Zangor Enlightened on disc army? Yeah, I kind of do. Where everything in my army naturally unbinds. Phantasmagoria is great. I just wish they drop it like 40 points.
How much is it right now?
200. It is the tied for most expensive. And Slanesh is the cheapest at 150. Go figure.
Well, maybe the Tzeentch one's gonna get really good.
Maybe, yeah. I'm ready for it. I've always loved Phantasmagoria because it just says there is no tax to the battalion. You can put everything in it. You can drop whatever. Like, it's such a good battalion for, like, maximizing your drops. And that's what El Clasico does. So I can, if I feel like giving up 0 information, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 drops. So if I want to see everything you're doing on the table,
oh man, and some of those are just true, honest to God dead drops in there.
Yeah, a Tuskor Chariot in deployment, like in outflank. Yeah, it's outflank. Yeah, whatever. Like Ungor's by my Herdstone, where you knew it was going to be. Ungor's by my Herdstone. Like, such dead drops to get all the information. Or I can be 3 drops if I fucking feel like it. Because goddamn Grashrak. God damn it. And his stupid retinue doesn't count as part of his drop. You have to drop it separately, which just make
I was wondering what the other drop was.
Just make them 1 drop together, Or keyword him with the Great Bray Shaman like full in the capital letters so he can.
So close.
Yeah, I know, because he is a Great Bray Shaman. All right, so so we talk about winning strokes. The winning stroke with this list is pretty obvious. It's actually got so your triple threat in terms of this. One of my threats is 60 Ungor Raiders. 60 Ungor Raiders. You can give them Rend 1. They can get up to I can't. Herdstone should be Rend 2, or does it say melee only? I can't remember off the top of my head. It's been a while since I've had to shoot.
It's been a long time.
It's been a long time since I've had to shoot
I
at
don't
stuff.
play Beast of Chaos.
It's been a long time since I've had to shoot at you. Let me double check here. I know it's at least you can get Rend 1 from Tendrils of Atrophy, which is pretty good. Rend 1, Tendrils of Atrophy. So this is in the steroid category. Also, Ungor Raiders self steroid. At 10 or at 20, you reroll ones. At 30, you reroll ones and twos to shoot. This is pretty good. Now we've got steroids across the blanket steroids as well from just like the generic command points. So even if as they thin out, you can still get that rerolling ones, which is necessary. Grashrak steroid +1 to hit. That is in melee specifically, so that's going to be your steroid more for your Bestigors. Herdstone. Here we go. Since I own it. Locus of Savagery. That's the battle. Subtract 1 to save roll from attacks that target within 6 inch. So that will work for your Ungor Raiders. You are at Rend 2 shooting. So with the Ungor Raiders, you have 60 blocks of. It's really easy to get 30, 25 mil bases down. 30 of them on average will murder whatever hero. Non-monster hero. They'll just fucking kill it. 60 of them most certainly will. And around the 60 of them rerolling 1s and 2s. 4s and 4s. You're not going to have the Rend 1 on the drop down, on the drop shot. So you're just volume of dicing things down. You are range skeletoning people. They can start to actually like really do damage to real like monster threats and stuff like that at that point. So you drop down to 60, and basically what you do is you put them in ambush, or you put like 30 of them in ambush if you feel like it. You're mental juking your opponent to go, oh crap, now I have to screen because I don't want 60 of these assholes dropping down and just shooting me off the table. Well, if they do that, they're going to cede mid control to you. So then, and that's where you just redline 40 Bestigors and then run those up the middle. So you got 40 Bestigors as one threat, 60 Ungor Raiders is another threat. The rest of it is just distraction fexes and board control. The army. Gorgon actually became a decent piece now.
Yeah, at his points.
Finally, it's the race to the bottom has succeeded. So at 160 points, this is like your second wave, third wave, or it protects the Herdstone with like 10 Ungors, and then you just fucking fight. Whatever. This is where I would use Bulgors now. Bulgors, I think, are really cool, like second wave or third wave attack. And they're a real threat with Rend 2 axis. And Desolating Beast Herd, of course, you're exploding in people's you get the Slanesh rule when you fight in people's on people's table side. That's another.
You could just be Slanesh.
Yeah, or you could just go Depraved Drove. But yeah, you're getting the Slanesh light treatment for your Bestigors and your Ungor Raiders, who are popping off with those exploding 6s when you deploy on their side. This is a fun list. Oh yeah, and you're all herd. So on average, you're summoning every turn. You can summon Ungors, or usually Bestigors as well, because it's 3 or 5 points. You auto get 3 points a turn with all herd. If you roll that D3 well on the on culling people at the Herdstone, you can get 5, and therefore you can get Bestigors instead. Or you can like rush out a turn to Chimera, or turn 1 if you're Aether Aether Broach.
I mean, if you just keep rolling, it can be whatever you want.
Yeah. So you do run
that box.
You do run the Aether Quartz Brooch. Importantly, you put the Great Bray Shaman by the Herdstone, hiding out of line of sight behind the Herdstone, so he's just ganking your own dudes. Everything's got Tendrils of Atrophy because it's your best spell by far. You do have Titanic Fury, though, on the one extra Great Bray Shaman, which is a little bit of a vanity pick, so if I need to be in 2 places with my Bestigors, I can be in 2 places. Like 2 distinct places. Usually I'm in 1. Because it's just 40 Bestigors here. Fight this. But he takes Titanic Fury because he can then follow. Basically, your deployment's going to probably be like Ongor Raider Chaff if you need it. Otherwise, it's going to be Bestigors plus a Gorgon, plus that guy to Titanic Fury the Gorgon and give him +1 attack down the profile line. So steroids, all about the steroids, all about the deployment flexibility, and then just like basically stealing every game you win, you steal it from somebody. Like, you just don't have as much damage as the new armies do, but exploding sixes go a long way, and when you can outflank to get them reliably, and Bestigors still do work. And then you just have really good summoning because all herd.
Yeah, all herd is very good.
It's very good, and Aether Crutch Brooch goes a long way too. You could also swap this for the Knowing Eye if you're less of a gambling man.
Always be a gambler.
So, this is a list I've had a lot of fun with. I have a disturbingly high win rate with it too. It's just because you're giving your opponents always bad decisions. That's what the whole army. That's how you play. You're always giving them bad decisions to make. You never give them the right decision. And you can cover all of the objectives. You're playing an objectives game at all times with this army. So.
True.
I love that it's 12 or 3 drop though.
or anywhere in between.
Yep. And you don't have to give up information. 6 of my drops in ambush. Let's go. And then you'll do the cheeky move where you put them all in ambush, and then they're like, okay, so I'm gonna like crowd, I'm gonna zone out, and then you're like, okay, I'll outflank on my side. Or you put 6 in ambush, and then you just run your Bestigors up the middle of the table. Like, whatever. Let's go. It's a lot of fun. So that's that one. List Tech 3. Oh boy.
Yeah, this is gonna be my last one. This is approaching the dangerous part of the evening where I threaten passing out on the floor.
I understand.
Man, Brennan, it's 10:30. Are you sure you're able to stay up this late?
I'm pushing it. So this list is Feast Day. You've got an Abhorrent Archregent, you've got a Ghoul King on Terrorgeist, you've got a Crypt Haunter Courtier, you've got a Vargulf Courtier, you've got 2 units of 6 Horrors, 3 units of 10 Ghouls, and then you've got the Battalion that makes the Horrors less bad.
Less bad.
Less bad.
And Horrors just went down. Yay.
Yeah, extra command point and Pimp Cup.
Those are the ones that don't fly, right?
Right, they're the ones that have no rend. They're 4
more attacks.
6s to wound or damage 3, and the battalion that if the general is an abhorrent keyword, then you get to re-roll all your hit rolls.
So you're
fishing. Right, and then of course, well, you're not fishing. You just want hits because it's wound rolls of 6 that are damage free.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so you want as many hits as you get, but then you want to get the 6s of wounds.
Okay, yeah.
Right, and then yeah, so that's the premise of the list, and then Feast Day is the one that lets you pile and fight for free every turn instead of spending a command point.
Which is something you just kind of need now, because your command points are so much more precious than they used to be in this army.
Right.
You can't just buy 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so you're starting with 2 because you've got a battalion, you've got the command point, and then in your first turn that puts you at 3. Mm-hmm. And then so every turn you're going to be getting, another 1 on each half of the turn. So that's another 10 free command points. So you're going to burn one of them right away on the Ghoul King on Terrorgeist to summon, more Horrors, 3 Flayers, whatever. And then the Archregent, you're just going to burn on for free, whichever one is most appropriate. So right out the gate, you're going to turbocharge the Terrorgeist and pitch him forward like the heat-seeking missile that he is. Then... So threat number 1 is the Ghoul King on Terrorgeist. Threat number 2 ends up being the Horror Bricks with the Haunter in the middle. And then the third threat in this list is the summoning.
Okay. Yeah. A little bit of a Swiss Army knife threat too, because you can pick what you need.
Obviously not as robust as me saying that my 3 threats are, 4 stone horns. But this is a list I trotted out to a Grognard's Day, and it felt limited in what it does because obviously leaving some quite excellent choices on the table, and the have Ghoul King on Terrorgeist, you don't have to take that battalion. But I mean, I had 6 horrors just grind through a bunch of jugs. Just sat there and just chipping away, while the Ghoul King on Terrorgeist came up the other side, and then the other sets of horrors, swept around.
Right on. Yeah.
I mean, it's not terrible, but this is definitely one of the weirder things we put out there. But when you look at all 3 of mine that I put together, we stick to the 3 threat methodology of here are the things that your opponent has to be concerned about. They're going to be concerned about for the entirety of the game or until you decide that, this is the time where it's okay to sacrifice this piece because they've lost so much in doing so. There's a process. This isn't just, darts at a dartboard and hoping for the best.
Right.
Real quick, because I'm going to let you cut out and we'll finish up the show, because I know you got to sleep.
I do have work tomorrow.
All right. So the only strange question from strangers on the internet we got was specifically for you.
Oh, good.
It was, how many Zangor banners is enough?
Zangor are, let's see here. Worshipful Builder. How many points are Zangor? 180?
160?
160.
160, 180.
Yeah, it's somewhere in there. Hang on one sec. I don't run Zangor because I hate stupid birds. Zangor Enlightened on disc are 160, but are you talking about the 10 block of regular ass Zangor?
Yeah, just the foot guys.
Yeah, because they have banners, disc stone.
Yeah. I'll pull up Chaos. Beast of Chaos. Units. Zangors, 180. Oof, okay.
180.
Woof.
I mean, they're strong. They're good.
I mean, they're
If you
good.
If you don't lose 2 models.
This is what I talk about with premiums. They're the only true anvil you can get in Beast of Chaos, so they're costed at a premium.
10.
Enlightened.
10 of them is the correct answer.
10 banners is the correct answer.
Yes, 10 banners is the correct answer because that leaves you 200 points for a hero. Which is probably a shaman.
Excellent. All right.
Okay.
All right, Brendan, I'll let you head to bed. We'll finish up the discussion. Thanks for hanging out, man. And then good night, dude. And remember, everyone, follow him at hobby_bear on Twitter, and check out the Cubic Shenanigans podcast. It is absolutely one of my favorite. You get a little bit of 40K in there, but you get a lot of it of Brendan, and it's a great time.
All right. Well, good night, guys.
Good night, man.
All
right. So this brings us to the fun list.
Oh yeah, my fun list.
Oh boy.
Did you look at this one?
Hang on one second.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't looked at this one yet.
This is an actual fun list, though.
All right, you're gonna take up a full screen here.
Nice.
No, I gotta switch my input real quick. But yeah, so the fun list. Why don't you take us through the fun list? So far, I see it's Orc. This is actual.
So the fun list is 6 units, if I remember properly.
We've got 3.
3 of them
Maw
are
Crushers, 3 Gorgruntas.
3 of them are Gorgruntas.
And that's it.
A command point. And that is the whole list.
And it is in Iron Suns?
Yes, it is Iron Suns.
Okay. No battalion, so you are
no
actual 6 drop.
Yeah, 6 drops.
So
And
take
then
me
one Mod Crusher is the general, because he has to get all the fun things for Iron Suns.
right.
And then it's essentially 1 pigs per escort unit per Mod Crusher.
Yeah, see, a
Because
little bit of chaff in case there's a threat worthy enough to take them down.
Chaff, and because they can keep up speed-wise, because you're not going to have the command points to keep brutes that fast, and because you want the command point for Gordrak, because he can pick 3 units, so he can pick all Mod Crushers to get the bonuses to hit.
Right.
And then it's I don't remember if Meaden's the right one, but it's the +1 damage is the one I was going for. I don't know if it's Meaden or Biggin, but that's the one that I was thinking.
Meanin.
I think I thought Meaden was the right one. I just didn't want to open my book when I was, even though it's literally next to me.
Yeah, I mean that would be rough.
It's like the only book in my room. It's actually right here on my bed. It's the only book in my room that I actually have.
Perfect. Yeah, well, it's the damage one is the one you're thinking of.
Yeah.
Right.
So when you went in to build this list, this was clearly a theme. It had to be a theme build, right? You're
Yeah,
I want to run.
I was like, what's fun? Mod Crushers are my favorite thing to play with. And I was like, I remember playing Gordrak at my first tournament ever, which was the first Meltdown. Was my first tournament ever 3 years ago, with Gordrak, Iron Jaws with their first new book.
Mm-hmm.
And I really enjoyed Iron Jaws, and I was like, 3 Mod Crushers.
Well, and this is like one of those. I think this
I had 3 Mod Crushers without Gordrak, and then I was like, well, I can play Universe, and I was like, nah, Gordrak instead of a third random Mod Crusher.
Well, it's like Mod Crusher. The strategy is simple with this army, and there is a beauty in simplicity when it comes to tactics.
Well, there's also a little bit of strategy to it, because I did put it in Iron Suns, so one of them does have some fun with it. I was debating Bloodtooths, because then you can have the after combat movements, and that's the real choice of, do you want to play games in your opponent's combat? I mean, in your opponent's charge phase, or in your combat phase?
Yeah, and that maybe is a little bit of the lean into your strength a little harder idea, where you're going to try to lean into.
I like to trip with my opponents personally, so I went with the Iron Suns.
Fair enough.
My strongest setup was probably with like Dragwood was probably one of my favorite things to play with, like the 9 Scythe Hunter thing that I ran 2 years ago, pack or whatever.
Yeah,
that was a lot. That was enjoyable.
Have you actually taken this list out into the wild and played it, or is this theoretical?
I have actually not played the Uruk War clans ever, besides Big Wog's Ardfist.
Fair enough.
I've not played Iron Jaws since the big new book has came out, and that's made me kind of sad, because I do enjoy my Iron Jaws, but it's not my like I was saying, playstyle wise, it's not my playstyle. I don't playstyle wise. I don't enjoy the army, but I do enjoy it for fun.
Yeah. Yeah. So with I just want to say real quick, driving monster trucks is fun in the game of Age of Sigmar, and Maw Crushers, Stonehorns. These are monster trucks.
Yes.
Nagash in Petrifex, I think, becomes a monster truck, which is why he starts to get more fun. But he is a monster truck of the spell phase, and now you're getting him to be good in melee a little bit.
Yeah, Nagash in the hero phase could be fun, where you're just rolling random dice. You can pew, 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 pew,
yeah, if you like spells,
and then when you're playing outside of the hero phase, you're just boop. Oh, okay, I'm done.
So I think this is a really fun counterpoint for my fun list. So I was sitting with Haywo and my friend Sam, watching Warhammer Weekly last week, and we had finally gotten the Slaves to Darkness book.
One of the first things I built was actually the Nurgle
Plague Touch warband in Nurgle. So taking the Slaves to Darkness battalion and then going into Nurgle, because you're allowed to do that.
Or a Slanesh.
Okay, for exploding sixes and re-rolling charges.
Yes, exploding sixes is better than Nurgle's damage. But the -1 to hit is also strong, because it allows everything in here to be tankier. That is the one thing that I could see an argument for, but I do like the exploding sixes, for more of a I want to get there, I want to go.
So this is a strategy. This is one of those cases of, you can try to shore up a weakness you have, which is a lack of bodies.
Or you can just go for it.
Go for it, because this army
has one strategy. It is going to try to
with Fell Spears.
It's going to try to table you turn 1 and 2 respectively, or lose the game. That's all this list does. And you could try to be tankier, but like you've got 9 bodies. 11 bodies all said and done. You are not going to win on objectives. You have to win in combat. So this was I was so busy wondering if I could do it that I didn't stop to ask if I should do it. So what it was is like I want to run.
Not in scrolled weapons.
Fell Spears because the exploding off the charge, and then they synergize with the 6th circle of the Everchosen, which is to get yet more damage off the charge. So on average, a single unit of Vanguard is doing about 40. It's about 40 to 50 is the spread, including their mount, on average off the charge. So every unit, and that's without exploding 6s factored in yet.
I just thought in scrolled weapons was better with the 6th circle than Fell Spears, or I might have just forgot to count in the 6th circle buff as well.
I math hammered it out. I was really tired and laughing about the idea. Maybe the other
I probably forgot to encounter one of the 2 buffs, or I might have missed one.
Yeah, so like this
personally just don't like math hammer myself, so I just kind of just choose units as I wish.
So real quick,
with list building, like we were talking about, like I don't personally do math hammer because I don't enjoy math hammer. So like if I enjoy a unit, like
this explains your
unit and stuff.
This explains one of your Skaven choices actually on this.
Yeah, like I really want to play there's the Gracier endless, there's an endless spell that I want to put a Gracier on. Like I want to put the Gracier on top of that.
Yeah. So real quick here, like since some people can't read my screen, I'm going to take them through the list. So this is Slaves of Darkness in Hish. This is a host of the Everchosen using the 6th circle. I am in the Overlords of Chaos Battalion, which is requirements are 3 to 6 units of Vanguard. That allows you to take a 2nd circle. So I haven't seen an FAQ.
Flying.
You take circle 8 for flying. It's because you don't want people to stop you from your strategy of killing them with pesky little screens and stuff. You want to get to the meat of their army. So you take the circle 8 for flying. You can take 6 again for bigger damage because I haven't seen
you don't see something that says you just can't double up.
I haven't seen something that says I can't double up yet. I would expect this. The FAQ comes out Monday. I would expect this to. That's the rumor anyway. I would expect it
Monday,
to
Saturday, something like that.
Because it is usually not a Age of Sigmar thing that you can double stack or go infinite.
That's a 40k thing
with stuff like that. So I would expect the 6th circle. You not to be able to take the 6th circle twice. If you can double dip for that for truly absurd damage off of the charge. But otherwise you take 8 because you want to be able to fly and you want to be able to get to quality targets. So then
that is actually a Sigmar thing. 40k doesn't let us double dip because we can double dip death saves in Sigmar. 40k you can't double dip anything.
Yeah, I mean, but you can't usually go infinite with damage and stuff like that.
That is true. Usually defense we can double dip, damage we can't double dip in Sigmar.
Yeah, it should it should almost be the other way around because you want people taking off models in the game Age of Sigmar.
Well, yeah, Sigmar's always been a wacky thing.
But host of the Everchosen 6th circle because this is gonna double your damage potential off the charge. You're gonna be able to fly for the charge because of the Overlords of Chaos. You have 3 units of 3 Vanguard. You take a Chaos Sorcerer Lord because the spell is good. Actually.
Oh, reroll everything?
Yeah, the spell is good.
Just choose a unit, reroll all saves?
Yeah, so you take a Chaos Sorc Lord, it is good. You put it on a steed, because you can, so you fast.
Oh, can you still do that?
It was in the War Scroll builder, sometimes it's wrong though, so maybe you can't, I don't know. It might be just on foot. You might have to look it up. And then Archaon the Everchosen, because we want to play with Archaon the Everchosen. So as far as I'm concerned, this goes against Brendan's 3 threats rule. There is only really 2.5 threats in this army. It's Archaon.
Every Vanguard unit's a threat. Come on.
You think so? I don't know. So I think it's the Vanguard are the threat. 900 points of Vanguard, and then Archaon the Everchosen is the threat. So you only really have 2. You have ample steroids.
In Azir, the Sorcerer Lord does not have a steed option.
Okay, then you don't have the steed. So Chaos Sorc Lord, you can. I think Mask of Darkness is the teleport as well, so I can teleport a unit if I feel like it.
I believe so. You can also take the one where a behemoth fights at the top chart though too.
Yeah, yeah. So you do that with Archeon, but Archeon's killy enough. So what this really is like you're all in on the alpha. This is Archeon Everchosen Alpha Strike. Um, the weaknesses are obvious. Uh, you know, your low body count. You have to kill stuff off that charge. If you whiff all your rolls or you fight something particularly tanky, you're just gonna lose the game. But honestly, you're gonna play. This is like the fun beer, the ultimate fun beer and pretzels list. I showed up. I'm gonna roll dice really fast, and then I'm gonna go grab a beer in between rounds. Like I'm just gonna. Games are gonna be quick one way or another, and your opponents will appreciate it.
I do agree though that I do think that like a unit of 6 Vanguard is a threat, but like a unit of 3 Vanguard in the 6 circle is like kind of a threat. Maybe like a half, maybe a half 0.75, something like that.
Like I said, you've got
like
about
like a double 6, maybe that's a full threat, something like that.
You're like I said, you're in the math hammer on these guys on a single unit of Vanguard with the 6 circle off the charge is about 40 to 50 damage. That kills most things against the 4-up save. That kills most stuff.
Yeah.
So a single unit, if you roll well, like within your bell curve, you should kill most single units. Like you have some rend in there.
Unbelievable.
You have some rend in there, but like you'd bounce off a staunch cast and stuff. So not good against Petrifex. Not good against Petrifex.
I mean, like Fell Spear though can kind of help versus Petrifex at least.
Yeah. Yes. So I think this is just this is a theme list. This is the can I do it, not should I do it. And then you're talking about Math Hammer. One of the tools I use for Math Hammer is this druchi.net. So what you do, like when you're doing to see if something is good or not compared to another war scroll, you just go in here and you just like add in like the dice for each respective attack. So 2 ups, damage, you can shift the damage, the number of attacks. You can say against what, and then you can calculate your number of damage. So like Stonehorns, for instance, you just go down the profile.
Yeah.
You put it on there, hitting on 2s and 2s, hitting on 2s and 3s, add rerolls. And so this will help you get your Math Hammer to see.
Yeah, like I have enough time in study hall that like I can do the research and see like what units are like used and whatnot, that I can just like assume that those are like good.
The good units.
Math Hammer and stuff, because like I know like math, like I'm good at math and stuff, but I just don't like math.
I don't like to.
Which is why I never wanted to go into math, and so I don't want to do.
I don't like to do math during a game. Is my thing.
Yeah.
Like I hate doing math during a game, even though I got like a 32.
And then I did cut interact.
No, I had I have a 32 in my ACT in maths, which is shy of it. What 36 is a perfect. Like
36 is a perfect. Yeah.
I'm very
I was like a 30 on maths. I think ACT.
They give you a calculator and 4 answers. It's really easy to do ACT math. Like it's super easy. I'm very good at math, but I choose not to use that part of my brain.
Math
but
is just not for me.
It's not fun. I'm sorry, it's not fun. I'll count to 6 on dice a lot, or 20 on d20s. Rolling a boatload of dice is fun. Like I like rolling fireballs, like dropping 20 dice on the table is fun. But I don't want to. So this is where like someone like Ian O'Brien with like the Just Saying podcast, Brendan Haywo. These guys all have like very analytical brains, and they will do the math.
Yeah, they're definitely like this is what's good. This is definitely like this is it. This is that.
Yeah, when you're going through
his 3-pronged approach is a very good example of the analytical like.
Yeah, when you're going through and you're doing your list science, you don't have to be the best at everything. You can stand on the backs of giants. People are accessible more than they've ever been in this community because of the internet, because of because of the internet, because of Twitter. You can look at a list and be like, this is what's winning, and then you can put your own spin on it. And this comes all the way back to my notion of you should have a an idea of how you want to play or what you want to play going into your list building, into your theory craft. Like, do you want to build towards your theme? Do you want to build to win? And then from there it's just refining, putting your spin, always observing it. I think Brendan's 3 threats is a very good idea because it gets you thinking the right way.
3 threats is really good because 3 threats is just left, middle, center, left, middle, right, or 1 full flank and just destroy a flank. Or
it
however
lets,
you want to do that.
it tells you, and goes into like knowing how to deploy your army is another important thing. When you have 3 threats, I'm going to deploy 1 threat here, 1 threat there, 1 threat
I
there.
have definitely won a game based on deployments multiple times before.
Once you get to the upper echelons of play, I feel like deployment is the deciding factor for a lot of games.
I have lost games on deployment because it's like, oh, I miscalculated how many drops I was.
Yep.
Or I miscalculated how many drops you were. Like, I was like, oh, I thought you were 1 more drops than that. Or I was like, oh, I missed in my battalion drops or something like that. And it's like, oh, I deployed that. I should have deployed this and stuff like that. And it's like, we all make that mistake. And it's like, it happens.
Yeah. So like, just to kind of like summarize this back up, because we've kind of went through all of our like little goofy list builds. We talked about a lot of our stuff. Like, going in, do you want to win or do you want to go wacky? Like, I think that's a spectrum. And
you gotta have your idea of what you're going for when you're making your list.
If you know you want to win, then you're going to need to pay attention to the meta. You're going to need to understand. This applies to your LGS as well as your tournament team. Pardon me. With your LGS, everyone who plays at your local gaming store. You get to talk to them ahead of time, establish what type of game you want, and build a list towards that. Now, some of us early on, you play what you got. There's nothing wrong with playing what you got. From there, look for the synergies within the models you have in terms of artifacts and allegiance abilities.
Learn the army as you grow it.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. So look for your synergies within. So your models are set because you just bought what you liked. From there, then look at the allegiance abilities, the combat traits, and the artifacts that are going to give you force.
Spell lore is very huge.
Yeah. From there, that's where your flexibility comes in maximizing your list. Look for steroids. Steroids across every book. You want to look for force multipliers. Always be looking for force multipliers, because if you don't have any in a straight up fight, you're going to lose.
Yes.
I mean, and that goes into like, do you want to win? Cool. If you want to win, then build for some synergies. Brendan's 3 threats thing really plays nicely into this. And then be aware of your winning strokes when you build the list, your winning strategies when you build the list, and deployment. Be aware of how you're going to deploy your army and how you're going to win games. Because if you have a unit where you love the unit, but you don't know how it will dictate a game, it might not be very useful. And then from there, identifying basic things like what's a hammer, what's an anvil, and then what's a role player. Now, it should be noted that it becomes a trap in list building when you think you must have anvils. If your army doesn't really do anvils well, you have a couple problems. You might have to buy anvils at the cost of what your army already does well, which is kill people. Stuff that is dead can't score either. So, sometimes you have to lean into being killy. Beast of Chaos can be pretty killy, but what it really does is it plays table shenanigans. Your anvils are very few and far between. Early on, I tried to experiment with 30 blocks of Gores and Dirge Horns, and it's like, the killy stuff still killed them. So, do I need anvils when I have 60-point Ungor Raiders, or Ungors, that I can space out 4 inches apart like little speed bumps? Because time will waste time in terms of, taking people's turns away. Having them waste time killing stuff that doesn't matter in places that doesn't matter becomes a winning strategy. So, don't fall into the trap of always thinking in strictly hammer anvil. Be aware, but don't always think that you gotta, because you might overlook other strengths of your army. So yeah, and then theme and pet building. It's a lot of fun to do that, but that just comes down to your expectations. If you're building with pet units, you're giving up something. If you build with pet units but can find enough steroids to make them worthy and you're going to end up comfortably at that 3-2 place, then by all means lean into that. And there's nothing wrong ever with self-comping a little bit, as long as, again, you manage your expectations.
Just know what you want to do. Know where you want to be in tournaments, and just go into. Assuming the tournaments.
Yeah, assuming tournaments. I think this applies to LGS, knowing what type of game you want at the LGS as well. And if you want to just parade your models and show off your really cool stuff, then none of this applies to you. But I hope it was still educational. And then just kind of always with list science, remember it's a gradual process. You start with a hypothesis, you test it, you draw a conclusion. You peer review, and you're peer reviewing and you're observing along the way, and then repeat. But as long as you have that hypothesis, does this work? Is this good? My hypothesis, I think Nagash is great. Or I think Nagash has gas. I think Nagash is good again in Ossiarch Bone Reapers. Like, now I'm testing it. Now I'm going to take it to P.A.K.A. And then I'm going to come back with my conclusions, and I'm going to make a show on how I felt he did.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll retool the list. Maybe he needs a battalion in there. Maybe he's 2 points heavy. But that's all stuff that you learn with time and the rigors of testing and peer review.
And no list is perfect also. Like, there is always going to be bad matchups, bad missions, and there's always going to be counters. Like, nothing's ever going to be unstoppable.
Right. I mean, everyone's got their... Yeah, exactly. And that's part of, like, the joy of living in a living meta, or playing in a living meta, is that...
Everything shifts.
Things move. There's always moving parts, and the imperfection drives innovation. All right, man. Thanks for joining me tonight.
Yeah, no problem, man.
Yeah. And real quick, if people want to follow you on Twitter, the Boy Wonder, as he's known, in our local...
Do you know where that came from, actually?
No. If you want to share real quick.
Oh, so it was the Holy Wars. Yeah, it was Holy Wars last year. So it was round 5. Ty. So I had my chip down I was just waiting for an opponent, and Ty takes his chip and just shouts like as loud as he can, like, "I want the Boy Wonder," and just throws his chip down. Like, I'm like, just like he's gonna play me.
That's awesome.
And then I had just like an amazing game.
Well, see, that's the thing is like
because Ty is such a great guy to play against.
He is. I've had the pleasure of playing him twice in the quote unquote in the wild, like at tournaments, and he is truly one of my favorite opponents.
Yeah.
I would, if I played him every tournament, he like I've gotten to the point where like I'm like I can't keep awarding him favorite opponent votes. Like having to like. So yeah, he's a great dude. A lot of fun to play against. He just brings so much personality to the game when you play him on the table. He's just a blast. So yeah, Boy Wonder. And if people want to follow you on Twitter, it's at Felvatar, Felvatar. They can check you out anytime. And chat gang, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I hope you learned a little bit of something. I hope you at least got a bunch of hobbying done while you listen to me in the background. Remember, follows are free on Twitter and Twitch, so go ahead and hit me up with those. Be sure to subscribe to YouTube or your favorite podcast app where you can find this, Podbean, Spotify, Castbox, etc. And if you feel like supporting the stream, just subscribe on Twitch. I get a little bit of kickback from Amazon. From the evil Goliath that is Amazon.
Evil Goliath.
The real Nagash of reality.
Yes, many corporations.
Right. All right, everybody. Good night. Thank you so much for joining us. And Isaiah, thank you so much.